Alexis had one hand on the hospital door. I stood in the hallway holding Brian's overnight bag, his insurance card, and a blue folder she'd told me not to forget. "The doctor's coming in," she said. "I know, that's why I'm here." She glanced behind her. My son was sitting upright in the bed. His face looked gray under the fluorescent light. Wires ran from his chest to the monitor beside him. Alexis lowered her voice. "Immediate family only." Then she closed the hospital door. Brian saw her do it. He didn't call my name. He didn't tell her to wait. He just looked down at the white blanket over his legs. I stood there with my hand still raised. A nurse pushed a computer cart past me. 2 people were talking near the ice machine. Somewhere farther down the hall, a monitor began beeping faster. I looked at the blue folder under my arm. Alexis had asked me to carry that, too. It contained papers for the business she wanted to buy, papers involving a building that belonged to me. That was the part she seemed to forget. I didn't knock. I didn't make a scene. I set Brian's bag beside the wall and walked toward the elevators. To understand how I reached that hallway, you need to know what things were like before it. Not years before, just before Alexis began treating my name like something she could sign in pencil. My name is Diane Malone. I'm 72. I've lived in Twin Falls most of my adult life. My husband Frank died 4 years ago. He wasn't a dramatic man. He fixed things before they became emergencies. He kept spare batteries in the kitchen drawer. He wrote service dates on the furnace with a black marker. If he borrowed a tool, he returned it cleaner than he found it. In 1998, Frank and I bought a commercial building at 412 Addison Avenue. It wasn't impressive then. The roof leaked over the back storage room. The front windows rattled when trucks passed. One tenant paid rent with checks that always smelled like cigarette smoke. Still, it was ours. Frank handled most repairs. I handled the books. We paid extra on the loan whenever we could. Some months that meant skipping a trip or keeping an old car another year. Eventually, we paid the building off. After Frank died, I became the sole owner. The warranty deed stayed in my safe deposit box at the bank. I kept a copy in a folder at home, along with the leases and tax bills. The building wasn't a fortune. It was simply solid. 3 small businesses rented space there. Their rent covered the taxes, insurance, repairs, and part of my living expenses. I visited every Tuesday morning. I checked the outside lights. I picked up litter near the alley. I spoke with the tenants and wrote down anything that needed attention. Nobody called me a businesswoman. I didn't call myself one either. I just knew what came in, what went out, and whose signature mattered. Brian is my only son. He was 46 that year. He had Frank's quiet manner without Frank's backbone. That sounds harsh. I know it does. But there's a difference between being peaceful and avoiding every difficult sentence. Brian avoided sentences. If a restaurant gave him the wrong meal, he ate it. If Alexis changed plans without telling him, he said she was stressed. If she said something sharp to me, he waited until we were alone. "You know how she gets," he would say. I did know. Alexis was 42. She worked in rehabilitation services and had wanted her own practice for years. She was capable and organized when something interested her. She could remember a patient's schedule from memory. She could also forget every favor I'd done by the time she needed another one. At first, the favors were ordinary. "Diane, could you pick up a package? Diane, could you wait for the repairman? Diane, could you look over these receipts?" I didn't mind helping. Frank and I had helped Brian whenever we could. That's what family did in my house. But family began meaning something different in Alexis's house. I was family when she needed access to my afternoon. I was Brian's mother when someone needed to drive him home after a procedure. I became Diane when plans were being made. That spring, Alexis held a dinner for her new department manager. I learned about it because she called the next morning. "Could you return 2 warming trays for me?" "What warming trays?" "The ones from dinner." I was standing at my kitchen counter with my coffee. I looked at the calendar beside the phone. "You had people over?" "Just work people." "Brian was there?" There was a pause. "Well, yes, he lives here." I waited. She gave a small laugh. It wasn't a family thing. "All right. Can you take the trays back before noon? I looked at my coffee. Steam had stopped rising from it. No, I have plans. That wasn't true yet. I made plans afterward. I drove to Addison Avenue and replaced a loose door closer myself. It took nearly an hour. My shoulders hurt that evening, but the front door shut properly. That was my first small refusal. Alexis noticed it. Brian called later. Mom, did something happen with the trays? No, Alexis said you sounded upset. I said I had plans. She thought you might help. She planned a dinner. She can plan a return. He went quiet. Then he said, it was mostly her work crowd. Were you there? Yes. Then it wasn't only her work crowd. He sighed. I don't want this to become a thing. There it was, his favorite request. He didn't want the hurtful act to become a thing. The hurtful act could stay. My response had to disappear. It won't become anything, I said. I'm not returning the trays. We didn't speak for 2 days. On the third day, Alexis called as if nothing had happened. She wanted me to review numbers for a rehabilitation practice she hoped to buy. The owner was retiring. The location already had equipment, treatment rooms, and a list of referring clinics. It's a rare opportunity, she said. I was sitting at my dining table. Frank's old calculator was beside me. What are you asking me to review? The expenses, payroll, rent, insurance, things like that. Do you have the statements? I have most of them. Most isn't enough. She laughed. You sound like a banker. No, I sound like someone who balances accounts. Brian joined the call. Mom, it could be really good for us. For us. I noticed that word. Alexis explained the seller wanted a quick purchase. She had already spoken with a bank. She needed a loan for $320,000. I put my pencil down. What would secure it? The practice has assets, she said quickly. Equipment, receivables, all of that. That didn't answer me. Another pause. Brian spoke next. The bank may want additional collateral. What collateral? Alexis's voice softened. She used that voice when she wanted a request to arrive before its weight did. Your building might qualify. I looked toward the window over my sink. My neighbor was pulling weeds along her fence. A delivery truck stopped at the corner. My building isn't part of your practice. Of course not, Alexis said. It would only support the loan. That means the bank could claim it if you didn't pay. We would pay. You haven't shown me how. We're putting the plan together. I waited for Brian to say something sensible. He cleared his throat. We just want you to look at it, Mom. Looking is not agreeing. No one said it was. Alexis spoke over him. Obviously, Diane. We're only asking you to review the proposal. That was what I agreed to. I would review it. Nothing more. 2 days later, Alexis arrived at my house carrying a laptop and a white binder. Brian came behind her with 3 coffees. Alexis sat in Frank's chair without asking. She opened the laptop and began showing me photographs of the practice. There were pale blue treatment rooms, a reception desk curved around one wall, exercise bands hung by color from metal hooks. It's already operating, she said. I could take over without losing momentum. How many employees? 6 at first. At first? I'd add more? With what money? The revenue would cover it. What's the current revenue? She clicked through several files. I have monthly estimates. Estimates from whom? The seller. Do you have tax returns? She's providing them. Bank statements? Those too. But you don't have them now. Alexis leaned back. This is why I didn't want to make the meeting all about paperwork. I looked at the binder. What did you want to make it about? The opportunity. An opportunity costing $320,000 is paperwork. Brian placed a coffee near my hand. Mom, she's worked toward this for a long time. I'm not questioning that. It feels like you are. I turned to him. I'm questioning whether the business can pay its loan. That matters if my building secures it. Alexis closed the laptop halfway. We wouldn't let anything happen to your building. She said it as though missing payments would be a personal decision, as though a bank would wait outside until she felt ready. I opened the binder. The first pages showed projected appointments. Then came equipment lists and renovation ideas. There were no final operating statements. There was no clear budget for the first 6 months. One page included my building's address, 412 Addison Avenue. It appeared beneath the words proposed additional collateral. I tapped the page. Who gave the bank this address? Alexis looked at Brian. Brian looked at his coffee. I mentioned it, she said. They needed to know what options we had. You don't have this option yet, I know that. Then why is it in the proposal? Because we're discussing it. You and I are discussing it today. You discussed it with them earlier. Brian rubbed his thumb along the cardboard sleeve on his cup. Mom, it's preliminary. Did you tell the bank I had agreed? No, Alexis said. Her answer came too quickly. I looked at Brian. Did she? He shook his head, but he didn't meet my eyes. She said you were open to reviewing it. That's true. Alexis reopened the laptop. Can we please stay focused? I kept my finger on the page. What exactly does the bank expect me to sign? A collateral document. What kind? I don't remember the technical name. That bothered me more than it should have. Alexis remembered everything when details helped her. She remembered rates, opening dates, room measurements, and the price of each treatment table. Yet she couldn't remember the name of the paper involving my property. I closed the binder. I want to speak with the loan officer. Alexis frowned. She's busy. So am I. I can bring you whatever she sends. No, I want her to explain it directly. Brian finally looked at me. Is that necessary? Yes. Alexis pushed her chair back. You're making this sound suspicious. I'm making it sound unfinished. Her face tightened. We came here because we thought you wanted to help. I agreed to review a proposal. I'm reviewing it. That doesn't feel like support. I stood and carried my untouched coffee to the sink. Support and consent aren't the same thing. Nobody spoke. The kitchen clock made a faint clicking sound. Frank had hated that clock. I kept it because the sound filled empty mornings. Alexis began packing her laptop. We'll arrange something, she said. No, give me the officer's name. She zipped the case. Nicole Harris. What bank? She told me. I wrote it on the back of an envelope. Brian stayed seated after Alexis stood. He looked tired already. Not sick, just tired in the way he looked whenever Alexis and I disagreed. Mom, please don't go into the call expecting problems. I'm expecting answers. She's nervous about losing the practice. Then she should know the numbers. Alexis waited by the doorway. Brian. He stood. Before leaving, he touched my shoulder. Just keep an open mind. I will. Alexis gave me a thin smile. Thank you, Diane. They left the binder on my table. After their car pulled away, I opened it again. I found the page with my address and removed nothing. I changed nothing. I simply photographed it with my phone. Then I took my notebook from the kitchen drawer. I wrote the date. I wrote that I had agreed to review possible collateral. I added one short sentence beneath it. No promise made. The next morning, I called Nicole Harris myself. She answered on the fourth ring. This is Nicole. My name is Diane Malone. I own the property at 412 Addison Avenue. Her tone changed slightly. Yes, Mrs. Malone. I've been expecting to hear from you. That caught my attention. Expecting me? Mrs. Malone. Alexis indicated the collateral discussion was moving forward. I agreed to review it. There was a brief silence. I understand, Nicole said. Do you? Yes. And I think we should meet before anyone takes another step. I looked at the copied deed folder on my desk. Then I looked at the note I'd written. No promise made. When can you see me? I asked. Nicole checked her calendar. Tomorrow morning at 10. I'll be there. I hung up and called Brian. He answered from his car. Hey, Mom, I'm meeting Nicole tomorrow. Oh. Alexis said she was arranging that. I arranged it. Okay, I'll speak with her alone. He was quiet. Why alone? Because it's my building. He let out a slow breath. Alexis won't like that. I didn't ask what she would like. Another silence followed. This one felt different. For once, Brian wasn't searching for words that would keep everybody comfortable. He was realizing comfort might no longer be available. All right, he said. I closed my notebook. Tell Alexis I'm reviewing the proposal. Tell her nothing has been approved. I will. Say the whole sentence, Brian. He paused. Then he said, Nothing has been approved. Good. After we hung up, I placed the notebook inside my handbag. I added my copy of the deed and the page showing my address. Then I set the bag beside the front door, ready for morning. I reached the bank 10 minutes early. The lobby smelled faintly of carpet cleaner and coffee. Nicole's office was behind a glass wall. I could see her speaking with another customer, so I sat near the entrance. At 9:55, Alexis walked through the front doors. She wore a gray jacket and carried the same white binder. Brian followed with his hands in his coat pockets. I stood. What are you doing here? Alexis blinked as if my question surprised her. We're meeting Nicole. I'm meeting Nicole. Brian looked from me to Alexis. We thought it made sense to come together. I said I wanted to speak with her alone. Alexis placed the binder against her hip. There are things about the practice you won't know. I'm not here to discuss treatment rooms. We should at least provide context. I need context about my property. I can provide that. Alexis looked toward Nicole's office. This is becoming unnecessarily formal. We're inside a bank. Brian stepped closer to me. Mom, nobody's trying to pressure you. Then waiting outside shouldn't be a problem. His mouth tightened. Nicole opened her office door. Mrs. Malone? She saw Alexis and Brian, then looked at me. Are they joining us? No. Alexis answered at the same time. Yes. Nicole kept her expression neutral. The property owner decides who attends this portion. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Alexis held out the binder. You'll need this. Nicole took it from her. Thank you. I'll return it when we're finished. Brian touched Alexis's elbow. Let's get coffee. She moved away from him. This concerns our loan. Nicole nodded. And the collateral discussion concerns Mrs. Malone's property. Alexis stared at me for several seconds. Then she said, Fine. She walked toward the lobby doors. Brian followed after glancing back at me. Nicole closed her office door. Please sit down. Her desk was neat. 2 sharpened pencils rested beside a yellow pad. A framed photograph showed Nicole standing beside an older woman near a fishing boat. She opened the binder but didn't read from it. I want to make sure I understand your position, she said. You're considering allowing the Addison Avenue property to support the loan. I agreed to review the idea. You haven't agreed to provide the property. No. Have you signed anything with Alexis or Brian? No. Have you authorized either of them to make decisions about the building? No. Nicole wrote something on the pad. Good. I needed that stated clearly. Why? Because the application describes the property as available collateral. I looked at the white binder. Available? That's the word used. Who used it? Alexis completed the application. Did she say I owned it? Yes. Did she say I had approved its use? Nicole chose her words carefully. She said you supported the purchase and were willing to consider the collateral. That second part is true. I understand. The first part depends on what support means. Nicole set her pencil down. That's one reason I wanted to meet you directly. I folded my hands over my handbag. Is there already something against my building? No. The answer came without hesitation. No lien, no mortgage, no signed pledge. Nothing from this proposed loan. I felt my shoulders drop slightly. I knew Alexis couldn't place a mortgage without me. Still, hearing Nicole say it mattered. Then why did Alexis think she needed to attend? You would have to ask her. I am asking what she expected to happen today. Nicole glanced through the binder. She expected us to review the remaining conditions. What conditions? I can explain each one. First, I need your permission to discuss the parts involving you. You have it. Only those parts? Yes. She nodded. That's appropriate. Nicole turned to her computer. Before she could continue, someone tapped on the glass. Brian stood outside holding a paper cup. Alexis was beside him. She pointed toward her watch. Nicole got up and opened the door a few inches. We'll need more time. How much? Alexis asked. I'll let you know. I have an appointment at 11. Nicole glanced at me. Mrs. Malone and I can schedule a second meeting. Alexis's eyes shifted to the folder. Did you explain the loan timing? We haven't reached that yet. Please make sure she understands the seller won't wait forever. I stood and walked to the door. I understand what a deadline is. Alexis gave a quick smile. I wasn't suggesting you didn't. You were speaking around me. I was speaking to Nicole about me. Brian held out the coffee. I got you tea, Mom. I took it. Thank you. He looked relieved, which told me how little it took to reassure him. Nicole returned the white binder to Alexis. I'm going to prepare a separate copy of the relevant documents for Mrs. Malone. I already made copies, Alexis said. I'll provide the bank's copies. Alexis pressed her lips together. All right. Nicole scheduled me for the following afternoon. As we left, Alexis walked ahead. Her heels struck the tile harder than necessary. Brian stayed beside me. How did it go? Nicole confirmed nothing is attached to my building. Of course nothing is. Then why do you sound annoyed? I'm not annoyed. You rub your jaw when you're annoyed. He lowered his hand. Alexis stopped near the parking lot. Are you both coming to the house? What for? I asked. The payroll projections. I looked at Brian. He stared at the pavement. Alexis continued. You said you would help check them. I said I would review the proposal. The payroll is part of the proposal. That was true. What time? Now would be best. I had planned to visit the grocery store. I also needed to call the electrician about a light at Addison Avenue. Neither task was urgent. All right, I said. Alexis's expression softened immediately. Great. We can finish before lunch. I followed them to their house in my car. They lived on a quiet street near a small park. I had a key to their back door because Alexis often needed me to meet delivery people. I had used that key more than I'd used their front door. That morning, Brian opened the front door for me. Alexis led us to the dining room. Papers covered half the table. A printer sat on a chair with its cord stretched across the floor. She handed me a stack of employee schedules. I need the annual payroll total. Where are the hourly rates? On the spreadsheet. Where's the spreadsheet? Brian, can you show her? Brian was already taking off his coat. Sure. He sat beside me and opened the laptop. Alexis carried her phone into the kitchen. For the next hour, Brian and I worked through the numbers. Several formulas were wrong. One employee's wages had been entered twice. Payroll taxes weren't included at all. Did Alexis make this? I asked. She started it. Who finished it? A friend from work helped. Did either of them check it? I guess not. I corrected the formulas. Brian watched the total change. That's a lot higher. It's the real number. He rubbed his jaw again. Maybe we can start with fewer people. Alexis told the bank 6. She wants 6. Wanting 6 doesn't pay 6. He leaned back. You always make numbers sound personal. They become personal when somebody can't meet payroll. From the kitchen, Alexis was speaking on the phone. Yes, we're moving forward, she said. The financing is lined up. I stopped typing. Brian heard it too. Alexis lowered her voice, but we could still hear pieces. Early fall, she said. I'll know more after closing. When the call ended, she returned to the dining room. Who was that? I asked. A therapist I want to hire. You told her financing was lined up. It is. Nicole didn't say that. The bank issued the commitment. With conditions. Every loan has conditions. One involves me. Alexis gathered 2 pages and tapped their edges against the table. We know that. Then the financing isn't lined up. She looked at Brian. He focused on the laptop screen. Diane, I'm trying to recruit good people. I can't sound uncertain. You are uncertain. I'm prepared. Those are different things. Her face hardened. Can we please finish the payroll? I turned the laptop toward her. The annual total was missing taxes. It's higher now. How much higher? I showed her. She stared at the screen. That can't be right. It is. The seller runs the practice with that staff. Then get her payroll records. She's sending them. You keep saying people are sending things. Alexis shut the laptop. I think we're done for today. Brian looked at me. Mom, don't take that personally. I picked up my handbag. What would I take personally? She's under pressure, I noticed. Alexis carried the papers into the kitchen without saying goodbye. Brian walked me to the front door. On the porch, he handed me my coat. She does appreciate your help. She has an unusual way of showing it. She's scared someone else will buy the practice. Then she should slow down and check the numbers. That might mean losing it. It might prevent her from buying a problem. Brian looked through the front window. Alexis was moving papers around the dining table. She's wanted this forever. That doesn't make my building worth less. Nobody said it did. You keep answering things I didn't ask. He looked at me. What did you ask? Why she told someone the financing was lined up. She's trying to keep that therapist interested by saying something that isn't true. It could be true soon. That depends on me. His shoulders dropped. Yes, it was the first time he had said it plainly. I waited for more. He added, but you've always supported me. There was no accusation in his voice. That almost made it worse. What does that mean, Brian? It means you've always helped. Does helping you before mean I must risk the building now? No, I didn't say that. Alexis seems to think it does. She's counting on you. Did you tell her she could? He looked back through the window again. I told her you'd listen. That isn't what I asked. He put his hands in his pockets. She knows you care about us. I waited. He didn't answer. I drove home without going to the grocery store. The tea Brian bought me sat untouched in the cup holder. By the time I reached my street, it had gone cold. Inside, I hung my coat and placed my handbag on the kitchen chair. Then I noticed 3 grocery bags near the pantry. I had bought those groceries 2 days earlier for Brian and Alexis. She'd sent me a list because she was working late. I had paid for them, delivered their portion, and kept mine by mistake. A bag of coffee sat on top. It was the brand Alexis liked. I carried it to the counter and stood there looking at it. After Frank died, quiet had become the hardest part of my house. The rooms weren't frightening. They were simply finished with me too early each day. When Brian called, the quiet changed. Sometimes he needed a ride. Sometimes Alexis needed receipts entered. Sometimes they needed someone to wait for a plumber. I had told myself each request meant I still had a place. That was the part I hadn't wanted to examine. I didn't only help because they needed me. I helped because I needed the invitation hidden inside the request. The problem was, the invitation usually ended when the task did. My phone rang. Alexis, I answered. I think you took my coffee, she said. I did. Could you bring it by? I'm already home. We're out. The store is 6 minutes from your house. She went quiet. Then she said, I'm working on the payroll numbers. So am I. You have the file. I have the notes I made. Can you send them tonight? I'll bring them to the bank tomorrow. I need them before then. Why? I'm meeting the seller in the morning. I thought she was still sending records. She is. Then wait for the real records. Alexis exhaled. Diane, I don't understand why everything has become difficult. I looked at the coffee on my counter. Everything hasn't. It feels that way. You asked me to review the proposal. I found missing payroll costs. I'm talking about your attitude. No, you're talking about access. Access to what? My time. That's unfair. Is it? She didn't answer. Behind her, I heard Brian say something. Alexis covered the phone. Their voices became muffled. Then Brian came onto the line. Mom, can you just email the corrections? I'll give them to Nicole. Why does Nicole need payroll corrections? Because she's evaluating the loan. Alexis is evaluating the business. Then Alexis can correct her own sheet. He lowered his voice. What's going on with you? I sat at the kitchen table. That's a good question. Is this still about the dinner? There it was. He had remembered. You told me it wasn't a family event. It wasn't meant to hurt you. That isn't the same answer. We can have you over Sunday. I looked at the calendar. Was I already invited Sunday? We hadn't made plans. You just made them because I mentioned the dinner. That's not true. What were you cooking? He said nothing. Brian, I don't want a replacement meal. Then what do you want? I almost said, I want a matter before you need something. The words reached my mouth, but I didn't use them. If I had to explain that to my own son, saying it wouldn't create it, I want you to tell Alexis that my review isn't approval. I already did. When? After we left your house yesterday. What did she say? He paused. She said you always come around. I held the phone tighter. And what did you say? I said you probably would. The kitchen went completely quiet. Brian began again. Mom, I didn't mean you had promised. You told her I would come around. I meant you're reasonable. No, you meant I usually give in. That's not fair. It's accurate. He sighed. We're all tired. I'm not tired, Brian. I looked at Frank's calculator on the table. I'd carried it to their house more times than I could count. I'm paying attention. I ended the call. Then I opened my notebook and added what Brian had finally admitted. Alexis expected me to come around. Brian had encouraged that expectation. I put the coffee inside my pantry. After that, I removed Thursday afternoon from the shared calendar Alexis used for my bookkeeping help. I didn't add an explanation. I simply made the time unavailable. The change lasted 11 minutes. Then my phone buzzed. Alexis had sent a message through the calendar. Why did you remove Thursday? I read it once and put the phone down. She called before I finished breakfast. Did you see my message? Yes. I need the expense entries finished. I won't be doing them Thursday. Can you do them Friday? No. There was a pause. Are you stopping completely? I'm stopping until I understand what I'm being asked to support. The receipts have nothing to do with the loan. They're part of the business plan. They're my current work expenses. Then your employer should have a system. She made a sound under her breath. I don't have time for this today. Neither do I. I ended the call and left for the bank. Nicole was waiting in the lobby. She carried a thin brown folder with my name printed on a label. We sat in her office again. This time she closed the blinds along the glass wall. I prepared copies for you, she said. I'll keep the language simple. I'd appreciate that. She placed 3 documents in front of me. The first was the conditional loan commitment. It listed the borrower, the purchase amount, the interest rate, and several requirements. The second document was called a third-party collateral pledge. The third was an unsigned mortgage against 412 Addison Avenue. Seeing my address on that page felt different. The address had been on tax bills and repair invoices for years. It had appeared on leases and insurance statements. Those papers treated the building as something I owned. This one treated it as something the bank might take. Nicole pointed to the conditional commitment. The proposed loan is $320,000. That part I know. The bank approved it subject to several conditions. Which condition concerns me? She moved her finger down the page. This one. The sentence was longer than it needed to be. I read it twice. So the building isn't an optional extra. No. Would the loan close without it? Not under this commitment. Did Alexis know that? Yes. When? Before the commitment was issued. I sat back. That had been before Alexis brought the binder to my house, before she called the building one possible form of additional collateral. Nicole turned to the pledge. This says you're allowing property you own to secure someone else's loan. If the business misses payments, what happens? The bank would follow its collection process. If the default wasn't resolved, the building could be at risk. And this mortgage attaches that risk to my property. Yes, who makes the business decisions? Alexis would. Who controls the payments? The borrowing entity. Not me. No. But I carry the property risk. Yes. Nicole didn't soften it. I respected that. I read the first page again. Did Alexis tell you I had agreed? She didn't say you had signed anything. That isn't what I asked. Nicole folded her hands. She said you understood the request and were supportive. Those are not the same thing. I agree. Did she say the building was available? That wording appears in the application. Did you ask whether she owned it? Yes, she identified you as the sole owner. Did you ask whether I had consented? We required direct confirmation from you before moving forward with the property documents. That's why you expected my call. Yes. I looked at the dates. Alexis had signed the application almost 3 weeks earlier. The commitment had been issued 8 days before she came to my kitchen. Why didn't anyone contact me? We were given your contact information 2 days ago. By whom? Brian emailed it. I took out my notebook. Before that, you had no way to reach me? Not directly, yet my building was listed as available. Nicole nodded once. Yes. I wrote down the dates. Did Brian attend the loan meeting? One of them. Which one? The meeting when we explained that the collateral would require the property owner's signature. So he heard that. Yes. I stopped writing. Brian hadn't been confused at my kitchen table. He hadn't been learning beside me. He had been waiting to see how much I knew. Did either of them tell you I needed financial records before deciding? Not until yesterday. Who told you yesterday? You did. That answer settled something. Alexis had told the bank I was supportive. Brian had provided my information only after I demanded direct contact. Neither had mentioned my request for a real operating plan. Nicole slid a pen toward me. This is only for acknowledging receipt of the copies. I read the acknowledgement before signing. Then I stopped. What does your file currently say about my position? Nicole opened a screen on her computer. It says proposed collateral pending owner documentation. That still makes it sound like paperwork is coming. That is how the condition was entered. I haven't decided. I understand. I want the file to say that. She turned the monitor slightly away and began typing. What wording would you prefer? I thought about it. Property owner is reviewing the request. No consent has been given. No closing involving the property may be scheduled without direct confirmation from the owner. Nicole typed each sentence. Then she read it back to me. That's correct. I also don't authorize Alexis or Brian to speak for me. I'll add that. Does this refuse the loan? No. It clarifies that the bank cannot treat your participation as expected. Will they be told? I'm required to notify them of a material change in the file. It isn't a change in my position. No. It's a correction of how the position was recorded. I signed the receipt for my copies. Nicole saved the note. A small green box appeared on her screen. There, she said. Your status has been updated. That was all. No raised voices. No threat. Just 3 accurate sentences entered into the file. Still, the room felt different afterward. What happens next? I asked. I send a written notice to Alexis and Brian. I'll include you, and if they bring more records, you review them. If I decide yes, we discuss the mortgage in detail. You would also be advised to get independent legal advice. If I decide no, the current loan cannot fund. I looked down at the unsigned mortgage. So my decision isn't one condition among many. It's a required condition. Are the other conditions complete? Not all of them. Which remain? I can only discuss the portions Alexis authorized us to share. What has she authorized? The collateral documents and general timing, not the business finances? Not in detail. That was useful too. Alexis wanted my building considered. She didn't want the business records considered by me. I placed the papers inside my handbag. What is the general timing? The seller wants a prompt closing. No fixed bank deadline has been set yet. Has a closing been scheduled? No. Has anyone requested one? Alexis asked us to hold a possible date next week. Before I decided, yes. Did you hold it? No. I explained that we couldn't schedule while a required party remained unconfirmed. I almost smiled. One deliberate action had worked before I even knew it needed doing. By insisting on direct contact, I had kept a tentative date from turning into something everyone called settled. Nicole printed the updated file note. She signed it and handed me a copy. Keep this with the other documents. I will. When I stepped into the lobby, Alexis and Brian were seated near the front window. Alexis stood immediately. How long does it take to explain a signature? It wasn't an explanation of a signature. What was it? My meeting. Brian noticed the brown folder. Did Nicole give you everything? She gave me the documents involving my building. Good, Alexis said. Then you saw its standard. I saw that the loan won't close without my property. Her expression changed for less than a second. "We told you collateral was required. You called it an option. It is an option. We could pursue another structure. Is there another structure approved? We haven't needed one." Brian stood. "Can we talk somewhere else?" Nicole opened her office door behind me. "Alexis, Brian, I've sent you an updated notice." Alexis looked at her phone. "What notice?" "The property owner's position has been clarified." Alexis opened her email. Her eyes moved quickly. Then she looked at me. "You told them not to schedule a closing?" "I told them not to schedule one involving my building without me." "That's understood. It wasn't written. It didn't need to be." Nicole spoke from her doorway. "It did need to be." Alexis turned toward her. "Does this affect the commitment?" "It corrects the collateral status." "Are you withdrawing approval?" "No." "Then what exactly changed?" Nicole's voice remained calm. "The file no longer describes the Addison Avenue property as available. It is under review by the owner." Alexis glanced around the lobby. 2 tellers were helping customers. Nobody seemed to be listening. Still, she lowered her voice. "This makes us look disorganized," Nicole said. "It makes the file accurate." Brian touched Alexis's arm. "Let's go." She pulled away. "I need to know whether this delays us." "You don't have a scheduled closing," Nicole said. "We discuss next week. You requested next week. And now we wait for Mrs. Malone's decision." Alexis looked at me. "You said you were reviewing it?" "I am." "Then why add all this?" "Because reviewing isn't agreeing." Brian stepped between us slightly. "No one says it is. The application said my building was available." His face went still. Alexis answered, "That was a preliminary description. It was inaccurate. It was shorthand. For whose benefit?" She picked up her handbag. "I can't do this in a lobby." I nodded. "Then don't." She walked outside. Brian stayed behind. "Mom, you could have told us before changing the file. I told you nothing had been approved." "That's not what I mean." "What do you mean?" He looked through the window at Alexis. "She'll think you don't trust her." "I don't trust the application. It's a form." "It's a form she signed." He rubbed his jaw. "Can we meet tonight?" "I'm not available tonight. For dinner." "Is Alexis cooking?" "I could pick something up." That wasn't the question. He looked tired again. "No." "She has calls. Then you're asking me to come over while she works. We need to talk." "About the business?" "About all of it." I took the updated notice from my folder. "Start with one question." "What?" "Why did you wait to give Nicole my contact information?" He looked at the floor. "I thought Alexis had done it. Nicole says you emailed it 2 days ago. She asked me to, after I requested the meeting." "Yes." "Why not before?" Brian didn't answer. Nicole returned to her office and closed the door. I waited. Finally, he said, "Alexis wanted to get the commitment first." "Why?" "So we'd know whether the purchase was real. You used my building to make it real on paper. We didn't use it. You listed it. That isn't the same thing." "Then why is Alexis upset that I corrected the listing?" He pressed his lips together. I put the notice back in my folder. "I'll talk to you after I read everything." "Mom." "Not tonight." I walked to my car. Before I reached home, the bank's email arrived. Nicole had copied all 3 of us. The message repeated my position exactly. No consent had been given. Nobody else could speak for me. No closing involving the property could be scheduled without my direct confirmation. Below Nicole's message was a reply from Alexis. "Understood. Diane is reviewing the final formality." I pulled into a grocery store parking lot and read it again. Then I called Nicole. She called my decision a final formality. I saw that. Is that how the bank views it? No. Can you correct it? Yes. Within 5 minutes, another email appeared. For clarity, the property owner's decision is not a formality. It is an unmet condition. Approval should not be assumed. Alexis didn't reply. Brian didn't reply either. I bought my groceries and drove home. That evening, I read every page Nicole gave me. I marked questions in pencil. I placed sticky notes beside words I didn't understand. Near the end of the conditional commitment, I found Alexis's signature. The date confirmed she had known the building was required before she sat in Frank's chair and called it an option. Brian's signature appeared beneath hers as an acknowledging spouse. I copied both pages. Then I opened the white binder they had left with me. The projected opening date was circled in blue ink. Beside it, Alexis had written 6 names and the words verbal offers. I didn't recognize the names. I did recognize what they meant. Alexis wasn't merely hoping I would come around. She had begun making promises as if I already had. I closed the binder and carried it to my bedroom. For years, I had kept family papers in the bottom drawer of Frank's old dresser. Insurance cards, copies of keys, appliance warranties, and Brian's college records had all passed through that drawer. I almost put the binder there. Then I stopped. This wasn't a family paper. It was a business proposal. I carried it back to the kitchen and placed it beside Nicole's folder. The next morning, I went to Addison Avenue. A ceiling tile in the rear hallway had a brown stain. I checked the roof above it and found a clogged drain. Nothing serious. I cleared away wet leaves and called the roofing company for an inspection. Then I visited each tenant. Nobody needed money. Nobody needed a signature. They simply told me what was working and what wasn't. Around noon, Brian called. "Are you at the building?" "Yes." "Alexa says you have her binder. She left it at my house. She needs it back. I'll bring it this evening. Could I pick it up now? I want to discuss what's inside." His voice changed. "What did you find?" 6 names beside verbal offers. That doesn't mean anything. It means something to the 6 people. Their conversations. Does Alexis plan to hire them if the purchase closes? Do they know it hasn't? I assume so. Did she tell them my signature is required? He sighed. Why would she discuss private financing with employees? She told them there was financing. That's different. Yes, it is. He became quiet. I sat at the small desk in the building's utility room. Frank had built that desk from leftover shelves. One leg was slightly shorter than the others. I still kept folded cardboard under it. Brian, did Alexis make job offers? She talked to people. That wasn't my question. I wasn't there for every conversation. Were you there for any? One. What did she say? She said the practice was expected to open in early fall. Did she say expected? He didn't answer. Brian, she said it was opening. I wrote that down. Has she ordered equipment? Some. Paid for it? Not all of it. What has she paid? I don't know. You signed the loan commitment. That doesn't mean I manage every purchase. It means you know the loan depends on my building. I know. You knew before you came to my house. Yes. The word was quiet. It was also clear. I looked at the utility room door. Frank's handwriting was still visible near the light switch. Filter size 16 by 20. Why didn't you tell me? I thought Alexis had. She called the collateral an option. It is technically an option. Not under the approved loan. No. Did you think I had promised? He didn't answer immediately. No. I leaned back in the chair. Say that again. You didn't promise. Did I ever tell either of you that I would sign? No. Then why does Alexis act as if I already agreed? She's confident you'll help. That's not an answer. It's her answer. What's yours? He rubbed his jaw. I could hear the faint movement through the phone. I thought once you saw how much this meant to her, you probably would. So you let her build plans on probably. I told her to slow down. When? More than once. Did you tell her I had made no promise? I said you still had questions. That isn't the same sentence, she knows. Then say it to her tonight. Another silence. Mom, if I say it that way, she'll think I'm taking your side. There aren't sides to whether I promised. You know what I mean. I do. You want the truth without being responsible for saying it. That's not fair. Will you tell her? He breathed out slowly. I'll talk to her. That means no. I said I'll talk to her. Tell her exactly what you told me. I never promised my building. He didn't respond. I waited long enough to hear a truck pass outside. Finally, he said, "Can we discuss this together tonight?" "Yes, 7 o'clock. My house." He agreed and hung up. I remained at the desk. I had recovered one piece of truth. Brian knew I had never promised. He had known before the application was signed. But getting that truth from him privately was easy. Asking him to carry it into the next room was something else. At 6:55, I placed 3 folders on my dining table. The first held the bank documents. The second held copies of the business pages. The third was empty. Alexis arrived at 7:10. She walked in carrying her phone and a bottle of sparkling water. Brian followed with a white binder tucked under his arm. "You said you'd bring that," I said. "He picked it up from your porch," Alexis replied. I looked at Brian. "I used the key," he said. "I didn't put it on the porch. It was inside the front door." "Yes." He looked uncomfortable. I called. "You were in the shower. I had left my phone in the kitchen. You entered my house without permission. I've had that key for years, for emergencies." I was picking up a binder. "That isn't an emergency." Alexis set her bottle on the table. "Do we really need to make this about a key?" "No," I said. "Brian needs to return it." His head lifted. "Mom, put it on the table." He reached into his pocket and placed the key beside the folders. The sound was small. Alexis stared at it. "This is getting strange. It's getting specific." I sat down. They remained standing for another moment. Then Brian pulled out a chair. Alexis sat across from me. "What exactly do you want?" she asked. "I want complete operating records. Current revenue, actual payroll, taxes, insurance, rent, and expected cash for the first 6 months. The bank has those. Nicole says you didn't authorize her to share the business details with me." Her eyes moved toward Brian. "That's confidential information. You want to secure it with my building. It's still confidential. Then keep it confidential and find different collateral." Her face tightened. "That's not reasonable. It is the simplest option." Brian leaned forward. "Mom, nobody's hiding anything. Then authorize Nicole to show me." Alexis twisted the cap on her bottle. "The bank already reviewed the numbers. The bank wants my building because the practice alone isn't enough. That's common in a new acquisition. I'm not saying it isn't. You're treating every normal step like evidence of something. I'm treating it like risk." She looked at the folders. "What else?" I showed her the page with the 6 names. "Did you offer these people jobs? They know the purchase is pending. Brian heard you say the practice was opening." Brian doesn't remember every word correctly. He looked at her. "I remember that." She turned toward him. "You know what I meant. I know what you said." For a moment, nobody moved. Brian had done it. Not the full sentence I'd asked for, but he had contradicted her while she could hear him. Alexis faced me again. "I've been building a team. That's part of buying a practice. Have you promised start dates? General dates? Have you ordered equipment? Some basic items. Using what money? My money. Did you pay an earnest deposit?" She stopped turning the bottle cap. "Yes, before I agreed. The purchase agreement required it. Is it refundable? Under certain conditions? Is my refusal one of them?" She didn't answer. Brian did. "No," I looked at him. "When did you learn that? When we signed?" "And you signed anyway. The seller wouldn't hold the practice without a deposit." Alexis pushed the paper back toward me. "We had to show we were serious. You showed the seller you were serious using money you could lose. It was a calculated decision. Based on what? Based on the loan approval. The conditional loan approval. We expected the conditions to be met. You expected me to meet this one." She took a drink of water. "Yes." It was the first honest answer she had given me. Not polite, not careful. Honest. "Why?" Alexis set the bottle down. "Because this helps Brian, too." "How?" "It gives us stability. Brian has a job. It gives us something of our own. It would be yours. We're married. That doesn't make my building yours." "I didn't say it did. You planned as if its use was settled. We planned as if family would help family." I looked at Brian. He stared at the key on the table. There it was again. Family was being used as a payment method. I opened the empty folder. From today forward, I'm not doing unpaid work for this purchase. Alexis laughed once. What unpaid work? Payroll calculations, receipt entries, vendor comparisons, calls, printing, deliveries, or waiting for equipment. You offered to help. I offered to review a proposal. You've always helped with paperwork. That was before my work became part of a purchase I haven't approved. So you're punishing us. No, I'm separating my time from your assumption. Brian picked up the key, then seemed to remember. He placed it back down. What do you need before you decide? He asked. I handed Alexis a written list. Complete records. A realistic operating plan. Every commitment you've already made. Every deposit you could lose. Every order you've placed. Alexis read the page. This could take days. Then start. We don't have days to waste. Do you have a deadline? Not a firm one. Nicole said the seller wanted a prompt closing. The seller always wants a prompt closing. That isn't a date. Alexis folded my list in half. If I provide everything, will you sign? I'll review everything. That's not enough. It is all I ever offered. She stood. Then maybe we should stop pretending this is about numbers. I stayed seated. What is it about? The dinner? The trays? Every time you felt left out. Brian said her name quietly. Alexis. No, she needs to hear it. She's using the business to settle a family complaint. I looked at the empty folder between us. If I were settling a complaint, I would have refused already. She had no answer for that. I continued. I haven't refused. I'm asking you to show me whether the business can carry the debt. And if I don't meet your personal standard, my building stays out of it. She took her phone from the table. Brian remained seated. Alexis, give her the records. She'll find another reason. Then let her review them. She looked at him. Are you agreeing with her now? I'm saying she never promised. The room went still. His voice wasn't loud. He didn't look at me after saying it. Alexis did. You told me she would come around. I said I thought she would. You said she always helps. She does. Then why did we sign anything? Brian's face changed. You wanted the practice. We wanted it. You wanted it first. She grabbed her bag. I'm leaving. Brian stood. I'll come with you. No. Finish your meeting. She walked out and closed the front door hard enough to shake the small picture beside it. Brian picked up his coat. Thank you for telling her, I said. He didn't respond. At the doorway, he looked at the key on the table. Do you really want this back? Yes. He nodded and left it there. After he was gone, I placed the key in the kitchen drawer. I took the 3 folders to my desk. The empty one now had a purpose. I labeled it Commitments, Made Before Consent. The next afternoon, Alexis authorized Nicole to share the operating documents with me. That was the practical result of the meeting. My boundary had forced open the records. The records were incomplete. They showed payroll estimates, equipment orders, and the earnest deposit. They also showed a revenue drop during the seller's last 2 quarters. No explanation was attached. I emailed Nicole 3 questions. She replied that she would ask Alexis and the seller for clarification. At 4:30, another email arrived. This one came from Alexis. Brian and Nicole were copied. The seller had received interest from another buyer. She would honor the current agreement only if the purchase closed within 5 business days. Alexis added 1 sentence above the forwarded notice. We now have a firm deadline, so I need Diane's decision immediately. I replied to everyone. I will decide after the missing information is provided. Alexis called before Nicole could answer. You saw the deadline? Yes. Then you understand we can't keep discussing this forever. We started discussing it correctly 2 days ago. That's not true. When did you give me the operating records? You had the binder. The binder had photographs and estimates. It had everything we had at the time. It didn't mention the revenue drop. She became quiet. Then she said, the seller had a temporary slowdown. Why? Referral patterns change. What changed? I'm getting that information. You offered jobs before getting it. Her voice cracked slightly. I offered opportunities. I didn't sign employment contracts. Do those people know that? They know nothing is final until closing. That isn't what Brian heard. Brian hears half a conversation and gets nervous. I looked at the 5-day notice. Did you order equipment? Yes. Can you cancel it? Some of it. What can't you cancel? She breathed in, then let it out slowly. I don't have every invoice in front of me. Send them. Diane, please. Her voice had changed. It was softer now. We've put everything into this. You put money into it. Money, time, my reputation. I told people I was building something. You told them before it was financed, because I believe my family supported me. I got up and carried my mug to the sink. Are you crying? No. She was. I could hear her wiping her nose. I've worked under other people my entire career, she said. I finally found something I could own. I know. The seller chose me because I promised to continue the practice. Then send the missing records. Nothing I send will satisfy you. You haven't tried. I sent everything. No. You sent what supported your plan. She began crying more openly, not loudly, not the kind of crying meant for Brian in the next room. This sounded tired. For a moment, I almost told her I would make it work. The sentence rose automatically. I had used some version of it for years. I'll handle it. I'll pick it up. I'll check the totals. I'll wait for the delivery. I held the edge of the sink instead. Alexis, I'm not deciding while you're crying. She went silent. That's cruel. No, it's careful. You think I'm manipulating you. I think you're frightened. Fear doesn't improve the numbers. She sniffed. What do you want today? The current referral information. Every equipment order, every deposit, the complete staffing budget. You have the staffing budget. I have one with missing taxes. I corrected that. Send the correction. I will. And authorize Nicole to answer my questions. I already did. Then I'll speak with her. Alexis's voice became firmer. If your questions delay underwriting, the deadline stays the same. My questions didn't create the deadline. No, but you can make it impossible. I looked at the warranty deed copy on my desk. I'm not the one who promised an opening date. She ended the call without saying goodbye. Nicole called 20 minutes later. I received your questions, she said. Can you answer them? Some. Alexis authorized broader disclosure this morning. Did she authorize it before or after my email? After. I sat with a pencil and the updated records. Nicole explained the revenue drop without turning it into a lecture. The practice depended on referrals. 2 regular sources had sent fewer patients during the past 6 months. Did they stop completely? I asked. No. The volume declined. Does anyone know why? The seller says staffing changes affected referrals, at the practice or at the referring offices. That isn't clear. Does the plan assume those patients return? Yes. Is there anything in writing saying they will? Not in the file. I circled the projected revenue. So this number assumes recovery. It assumes growth beyond the current level. How much growth? Nicole gave me the percentage. I looked at the actual monthly totals. The difference wasn't small. Would the practice pay the loan using current revenue? It would be tight. What does tight mean in ordinary words? There would be little room for a slow month or unexpected expense. And that's with the original payroll estimate? Yes. The one missing taxes. Nicole paused. I'm looking at the revised version. Does it include all office work? What do you mean? Bookkeeping, expense entries, vendor calls, payroll checking. She typed something. The plan lists administrative support under owner and family contribution. Family contribution? Yes. Is there an expense beside it? No. I put my pencil down. What exactly does it say? Nicole read the line. Bookkeeping and administrative functions to be handled by owner with family support during first-year transition. I looked at the Thursday afternoon I had removed from the calendar. Does it name the family member? No. Did anyone ask whether that person agreed? Not in the bank file. They mean me. Nicole didn't respond immediately. Have you agreed to provide those services? No. Then we need to correct the operating assumptions. The answer was so simple that I nearly laughed. How does that affect the loan? It adds an expense if Alexis must hire someone. What happens if she says she'll do it herself? Then she needs to show how those duties fit with patient work and management. She already works late. That would be part of the review. I found the payroll spreadsheet. There was no bookkeeper listed. No office manager either. Alexis had counted herself as a full-time treating provider. Can I send you examples of what I've been doing? Yes. Will Alexis see them? They'll become part of the review. I thought about that. My work had been invisible while it helped her numbers. Making it visible would increase her costs. Still, the numbers were wrong without it. I'll send them. I spent the next hour going through old messages. There were requests for receipts, payroll totals, vendor comparisons, insurance calls, and appointment schedules. I didn't send every message. I chose enough to show the pattern. Then I wrote a short statement. I have not agreed to perform unpaid work for the proposed practice. I sent it to Nicole. She confirmed receipt. Will this stop the loan? I asked. Not by itself. What will it do? The operating budget must reflect the actual cost. That's all I want. I'll notify the borrowers. After the call, I drove to Addison Avenue. The roofing company had arrived. I climbed the back stairs with the technician and showed him the stained ceiling tile. Leaves had trapped water around the drain. He cleared the remaining debris and checked the membrane. You caught it early, he said. Is there damage? Not beyond that tile. Keep the drain clear. He handed me an invoice for the visit. I paid it from the building account before leaving. That was what ownership looked like most days. A wet tile, a ladder, an invoice, and attention before damage spread. My phone rang while I was locking the rear door. Brian, what did you send the bank? The work I've been doing. Alexis says underwriting is reopening the budget. They're correcting it. Now? When would be better? We have 5 business days. You had weeks before those 5 days. He lowered his voice. She's upset. She called me crying. You could have told her about the bookkeeping first. She knows who did it. She didn't realize it would become a bank issue. It was already in the business plan. Not by name. That doesn't improve it. Brian was quiet. I walked toward the front of the building. Afternoon light reflected off the windows. Did you know she included unpaid family help? I asked. I knew you were helping with spreadsheets. For the purchase. Did you know she budgeted no cost for the first year? No. Would you have expected me to keep doing it? He hesitated. Maybe at the beginning. How many hours? I don't know. Every Thursday? She never said every Thursday. She didn't need to. I was already giving her Thursday. He sighed. Mom, you offered to help because you're good at this. I offered before I knew she had priced my time at nothing. That isn't how she sees it. How does she see it? As family helping. Would she treat patients for free at my building? That's different. Why? He had no answer. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. One tenant had left a small package near my office. Brian spoke again. Can you tell Nicole you'll keep helping for a few months? No. You wouldn't have to promise forever. I'm not promising tomorrow. That could change the projections. They should change. It could reduce what the bank will lend. The loan amount is based on your actual ability to pay. And the building. Yes. My building carries the part your numbers don't. He went quiet again. I carried the package into my office. Do you still want us to provide the other records? He asked. Yes. Why, if you're already pulling away? I haven't decided about the mortgage. It feels like you have. Because I won't work for free? Because every answer becomes another problem. No, every answer shows a problem that was already there. He said nothing. Then Alexis's voice came through the phone. Put me on. Brian must have handed it to her. She didn't greet me. You sent private messages to Nicole. I sent messages you wrote to me. You had no right to put family conversations in a bank file. They documented the work listed in your plan. I never listed you. You listed free family support. That could have been Brian. I waited. She continued. He could handle some administrative work. Did he agree? He's my husband. That wasn't my question. Her breathing became louder. The bank now wants a revised staffing plan by tomorrow afternoon. Then make one. I have patience all day. Work on it tonight. That's easy for you to say. Yes. I'm not buying the practice. You're making sure I can't. I found a missing expense. You created an expense. The work existed before I named it. She lowered her voice. If this loan falls apart because you decided to become difficult, people will know. What people? The seller, the staff, everyone I told. What will you tell them? That you withdrew support at the last minute. I haven't withdrawn anything. You're changing every assumption. I'm correcting assumptions made without me. That distinction won't matter to anyone losing a job. The practice already employs them. For now, is the seller closing it if you don't buy? Alexis stopped. I don't know. Then don't tell people I cost them jobs. You know what I mean. I know what you want me to fear. She ended the call. 10 minutes later, Nicole emailed all three of us. The revised operating plan was due by 3 o'clock the next afternoon. Without it, the bank couldn't confirm that the remaining conditions could be completed before the seller's deadline. Alexis replied within a minute. Diane, since your statement caused this review, you need to help us finish the revision tonight. I read the message in my office at Addison Avenue. Then I closed the laptop and turned off the desk lamp. When I stepped outside, Brian's car was parked near the curb. He got out and held up both hands. I'm not here to fight. What are you here for? To ask you in person. For what? Help us finish the revision. I locked the building. Alexis said I created the expense. She's angry. Is she wrong? He looked toward the dark office windows. She's been doing the numbers for hours. Good. Mom. What? You know how to do this faster. That's why my time was entered as free. It wasn't entered that way on purpose. The plan says family support with no expense. She assumed you'd help at the beginning. After I corrected her payroll without being paid, it was one spreadsheet. It was receipts before that. Vendor calls. Schedules. I know you've helped. That's the problem. You both know. He put his hands in his coat pockets. Can we go inside? No. I'm going home. It's cold. Then sit in your car. He stared at me. I had never spoken to him that way. I softened my voice, but not my answer. I'm not doing the revision. We could miss the bank deadline tomorrow. Then Alexis should have included the work correctly. She didn't think you'd pull out. I never joined. You know what I mean? I do. That's why I won't help. Brian looked down the street. Alexis says you're trying to teach her a lesson. I'm trying to get accurate numbers. She added a part-time bookkeeper. Then the revision is nearly done. That cost lowered the projected cash. The work costs money. She could do some of it herself. Then she needs fewer patients. That lowers the revenue. Yes. He rubbed both hands over his face. Every answer makes this worse. The truth is, making it accurate. Accuracy won't matter if the seller walks. It matters if the business fails after closing. He leaned against his car. We paid the deposit, Mom. I know. Some of the equipment can't be returned. I know that, too. We used most of what we had set aside. That was new. How much is left? I'm not giving you our bank balance. You're asking for my building. He looked away. Not much. Did you know that before signing? Yes. Why did you agree? Because Alexis believed the practice would replace it. With borrowed money? With income. Income the practice isn't currently producing. He struck the roof of his car once with his palm. Not hard, just enough to make a flat sound. Can you stop talking like a calculator? I stood still. He closed his eyes. I'm sorry. No, say what you came to say. I came to say we need you. For the revision? For all of it. The words landed exactly where he intended. I opened my car door but didn't get in. Do you need me or do you need the building? You're my mother. That wasn't my question. Why are you making me choose words? Because you've been hiding inside the wrong ones. He turned his back to me for a moment. Then he said, without the building, the bank won't fund. I know. So yes, we need the building. Thank you. He faced me again. Does hearing it make you feel better? No. Then what was the point? The point was getting one honest answer. He shook his head. I don't recognize you lately. You recognized me when I was entering receipts. That's unfair. You recognized me when I bought groceries. We never asked you to buy them. Alexis sent the list. You offered to go. And I kept offering because I thought being useful kept me close to you. Brian's face changed. I hadn't planned to say that aloud. Once I did, I couldn't pull it back. He looked at the pavement. Mom, I'm going home. You are close to me. Then why does closeness always arrive with a task? That isn't true. When was the last time you came to my house without needing something? He opened his mouth. No answer came. I got into my car. He placed one hand on the top of the door. What about Sunday dinner? You invented it during an argument. We could still do it. Would you come if I said no to the mortgage? His hand slipped from the door. That's not a fair question. It's the only one that matters tonight. He stepped back. I closed the door. At home, I heated soup and left half of it untouched. At 9:15, the revised operating plan arrived. Alexis had worked quickly. She added payroll taxes and a part-time bookkeeper. She reduced several equipment purchases. She also increased the number of weekly patient visits expected during the first 3 months. I checked the calculation twice. The added revenue covered the added expense almost exactly. There was no explanation showing where those patients would come from. I emailed one question to Nicole. What supports the higher patient volume? She replied shortly before 10. I will ask the borrowers to provide support. At 7 the next morning, Alexis answered. Owner outreach and renewed referral development. I read the phrase several times. It meant she planned to make calls and hoped people sent patients. That might work, it might not. I didn't know enough about rehabilitation referrals to pretend otherwise. I drove to the bank before my appointment and met Nicole at 8:30. She had the revised plan open on her computer. Does this satisfy the bank? I asked. It addresses the missing administrative expense. That wasn't my question. The increased volume needs support. Will that stop the loan? Underwriting will decide whether the explanation is sufficient. What do you think? Nicole leaned back. I think the plan is possible. Possible isn't strong. No. Is it sound? That depends on execution. Alexis is asking me to risk a debt-free building. I understand. Would the bank make this loan without my building? No. Why not? The practice assets and projected cash flow aren't enough for this loan structure. But with the building, it becomes acceptable. The collateral reduces the bank's risk. Whose risk increases? Yours. That answer changed the room. I had been reading the plan as if better numbers could make the risk disappear. They couldn't. A better plan might make default less likely. It couldn't change what I was being asked to sign. The bank's approval did not mean the practice was safe for me. It meant the bank had found a way to protect itself. Has Alexis seen the revised analysis? I asked. She'll receive it today. Will it say the building remains required? Yes. Will it say the current revenue is below the projection? Yes. What happens if underwriting accepts her explanation? The loan remains conditionally approved, and then everyone waits for me. Yes. I looked at the unsigned mortgage in my folder. Yesterday, I thought my job was to decide whether the practice could succeed. That is one question. It isn't the only one. No. The other question is whether I should carry the loss if it doesn't. Nicole nodded. That is the decision only you can make. I closed the folder. Do you have family? I asked. She glanced at the photograph beside her desk. My mother. Does she ever ask you for financial advice? She asks. Then she ignores it. I smiled despite myself. Nicole smiled too. Then she became serious again. Mrs. Malone, I need to tell you something clearly. The bank is not asking you to rescue the transaction. We are presenting documents because the borrowers proposed your property. That difference has become very important. It should be. She printed the updated analysis. Before leaving, I asked one more question. If I don't sign, does the bank take their deposit? No. The deposit belongs to the purchase agreement. The bank doesn't control it. So losing it would come from a commitment they made before financing was complete. Yes. I thanked her and drove home. Brian's car was in my driveway. He sat on the front steps with 2 paper cups. I parked beside him. "Coffee," he said. I unlocked the door. He followed me inside. "Where's Alexis?" "At work. Did she send you?" "No." He put 1 cup on the kitchen table. "She's still angry about the bank review." I assumed so. "She thinks you're creating reasons to say no. I'm learning what yes means." He took off his coat but remained standing. "Did Nicole accept the revision?" "Underwriting is reviewing it." Brian nodded. "So if they accept it, you'll sign?" I didn't say that. His shoulders dropped. "What else do you need?" "I need to know why you think bank approval decides what I should risk. It shows the business is viable. It shows the bank is protected. Same difference." "No." I placed the updated analysis in front of him. Read that section. He glanced at it. "I'm not good with this language. Read the sentence I marked." He did. The projected cash flow depended on increased patient volume. The bank also required my property because the practice assets weren't enough. Brian set the page down. "We knew they wanted collateral. You called it additional collateral. This says the loan depends on it. We've been over that. Have you read the mortgage?" "Parts of it." I took it from the folder, read the section about default. He didn't touch it. "Mom, I trust Alexis. This isn't a marriage question. It feels like one. It's a property question. She's my wife. If I start listing every way she could fail, what kind of husband does that make me? One who reads before signing?" His mouth tightened. "You always liked her until this. I still care about her. You don't act like it. Because I asked for records? Because you keep waiting for proof she'll fail?" "No. I stopped looking for proof she'll succeed." He stared at me. That was the change I hadn't understood until I said it. At first, I had been searching for enough reassurance to help them. Every missing number felt like something they could fix. Every correction felt like one step closer to yes. Now I understood that yes was not the natural ending. It was one choice. No was another. My job was not to save the purchase. My job was to decide what I would consent to without buying a place in my son's life. Brian pushed the mortgage away. "If you say no, Alexis will never forget it. What about you?" "I don't know." He picked up his coat. "I need some space." "From me?" "From this." He walked to the door. "Brian." He stopped. I haven't refused. He looked over his shoulder. Maybe that's worse. Then he left. The coffee he brought me remained on the table. I poured it out after it went cold. At noon, Nicole emailed the underwriting response. The revised operating plan had been accepted. Every bank condition that could be completed without me was moving forward. My signature remained necessary. Below that message was a calendar invitation from Alexis for a closing preparation meeting on the 4th business day. I declined it. In the comment box, I wrote one sentence: "I have not agreed to close." 2 minutes later, Alexis called. I let it ring. She called again. Then a message appeared. "Why did you decline?" I replied by email. "Because I have not agreed to close." My phone rang a 3rd time. This time, I answered. "You could have called me," she said. "You sent a calendar invitation." "Because the bank needs everyone available." "The bank didn't send it. You did. We're trying to coordinate. You're trying to place me on a closing calendar. You can attend without signing." "Then why did the invitation say documents to be completed?" She paused. "That's the standard title. Change it." "Diane, this constant correction is exhausting. Then stop writing things that aren't true. We have 3 business days left after today." "I know. You're acting as though time doesn't matter. Time matters. So does consent. Have you made a decision?" "Not yet." "What are you waiting for?" I'm reading the revised plan. The bank accepted it. The bank protects itself with my building. She became quiet. Brian must have told her about our conversation. Then she said, "What if we reduce the loan?" "Can you?" "Not enough to remove the collateral." "Then it doesn't change my decision. It reduces your risk. The mortgage would still be against the building. We could pay the loan off early. You could also miss payments. Why do you keep choosing the worst possibility? Because that is the possibility the mortgage covers." Her voice sharpened. "If you're going to say no, say it now. I'll decide after my review. So you can keep us waiting until we lose everything? You chose the deadline. The seller chose it. You chose to sign before financing was complete." She ended the call. I opened my notebook. For several minutes, I stared at the page. Writing down each argument wasn't enough anymore. Correcting one sentence at a time let Alexis replace it with another. I took a clean sheet of paper. At the top, I wrote 412 Addison Avenue. Below that, I wrote exactly what I controlled. No person could schedule a closing involving the building without my direct agreement. No person could represent that my approval was expected. No person could authorize work, charges, access, or delivery at the building for the proposed practice. All questions involving my property had to come to me in writing. I read the page twice. I wasn't refusing the mortgage. I was refusing everything they had placed around it without asking. I emailed the statement to Nicole, Alexis, and Brian. Nicole replied first, "Received. The bank will follow these instructions." I called her. I don't want another calendar invitation appearing as if I agreed. I've removed the tentative preparation meeting. Was it on the bank's calendar? Alexis requested it. We had not confirmed. Will she know it was removed? Yes. What about the seller? The seller isn't part of our bank file. Then Alexis can speak to her. She can. She cannot speak for you. That's the point. After we hung up, I drove to the bank branch where I kept my safe deposit box. A bank employee brought me into the small viewing room. She placed the long metal box on the table and left me alone. The warranty deed rested in a large envelope. Frank's handwriting was on the front. Addison Building. Original. I opened it carefully. The deed showed both our names from when we bought the property. Behind it was the recorded document showing ownership had passed to me after his death. I already knew what the papers said. Still, I read them. Frank and I had spent years paying for that building. After he died, every repair, lease, tax payment, and insurance decision became mine. There was no blank line waiting for Brian. There was no family vote. I added Nicole's updated notice to the box. I didn't add the unsigned mortgage. That paper belonged with the decision still on my desk. Then I closed the metal lid. When I reached Addison Avenue, Alexis was waiting outside my office. She held a thick stack of papers. "I brought everything," she said. "You should have called. You wanted records. I wanted them sent through Nicole. You also said everything should be in writing." She lifted the stack. "This is writing." I unlocked the office. She followed me inside. I left the door open. The room held one desk, 2 chairs, and a filing cabinet. Frank's calculator sat beside the telephone. Alexis placed the papers on the desk. "These are the equipment orders. These are the employment communications. These are the deposit terms. Did you send copies to Nicole?" "Yes." I opened the first order. 2 treatment tables had already shipped to a warehouse. Several smaller items were scheduled for delivery after the proposed closing. What happens if the purchase fails? The tables can be redirected, but there's a fee. Who pays it? I do. The next page showed software setup charges. Refundable? Partly. The employment pages were emails. Some used phrases like anticipated start date. Others were more definite. One said, "I'm excited to welcome you to the practice this fall. You told this person she had the job. She does if we close. That condition isn't in the sentence. It was understood." Like my approval? Alexis pulled out the second chair. "Can we not do that today? It's why you're here." She sat. "I'm here to show you we made real commitments. I believed you. Then you understand why the deadline matters. I understand why it matters to you. It matters to Brian. Brian chose not to read the mortgage. He trusts me. He avoids disagreeing with you." Her eyes narrowed. "You've always thought that. I've watched it. You like him dependent on you." I looked at her. That one reached deeper than she knew. "Explain that. You show up with food, you fix paperwork, you remind him about appointments. Then you act hurt when he has a life with me. I never objected to his life with you. You object whenever you aren't included. I object when I'm excluded from the family and included in the work." She looked toward the open office door. "This is about the dinner. It's about a pattern. You want to punish me for not inviting you." If that were true, my answer would already be no. She stood again. Then what would make it yes? A sound plan, honest information, respect for my decision. You have the plan. You have every invoice. I'm standing here asking. No. You're standing here showing me what will cost you if I refuse. What else am I supposed to show you? How you pay the loan during a slow quarter. The projections explain that. They assume more patience. I can bring in patience. Maybe you can. You don't believe in me. I closed the equipment file. Belief doesn't make a mortgage payment. She pressed both palms against the desk. You're willing to watch us lose our savings. I'm not responsible for protecting money you committed before my consent. You keep saying consent like I forced you. You haven't forced me. You've planned around me. We planned around family support. That phrase keeps getting smaller every time I examine it. She stared at me. Outside, someone opened the building's front door. A tenant crossed the hallway and went into her office. Alexis lowered her voice. "If we lose the deposit, Brian will blame you. Did he tell you that? He won't need to. Then don't speak for him. He's already pulling away from you." I kept my hands flat on the folder. "Did you ask him to?" "No." "Did you ask him to return my key?" "You did that. After he entered my house without permission. He picked up your binder. My house was convenient until I said it wasn't." Alexis gathered the files. "Read the papers." "I will." "Then decide tomorrow. The deadline is later than tomorrow. The seller needs time to prepare. That isn't the agreement she sent. She could walk sooner, then get that in writing." Alexis gave me a long look. "You really do want paperwork for everything now. For anything that could cost me the building, yes." She left without another word. I spent the afternoon reviewing the papers. The equipment orders matched the revised budget. The employment messages confirmed that several people believed the opening was nearly certain. The deposit terms confirmed it would be lost if financing failed. Nothing showed that I had promised. At 4:10, an email arrived from Alexis. She had copied Nicole, Brian, and the seller. "We are prepared to proceed within the agreed deadline. All buyer conditions are complete. The third-party collateral documents are undergoing final review, with execution anticipated before closing." I read it once. Then I replied to everyone. "I have not agreed to execute the collateral documents. My decision should not be described as anticipated." Nicole responded 3 minutes later. "Confirmed. The third-party mortgage remains an unmet condition. No closing is scheduled." The seller replied after that. "Thank you for clarifying. To meet the deadline, confirmation of all funding conditions will be required by noon on the 4th business day. Otherwise, I will prepare to move on." The preparation meeting disappeared from the calendar. That was the first time my written boundary produced a result everyone could see. It also meant the seller now knew exactly where the purchase stood. Alexis called. I didn't answer. Her email came instead. "You insisted on making this visible. Do not complain when I explain to everyone why the closing is at risk." The next morning, her explanation appeared online. She posted a photograph of the empty reception desk at the practice. Beneath it, she wrote that the purchase might fail because promised family support had been withdrawn during the final week. She didn't use my name. She didn't need to. Several people knew whose commercial property was involved. Alexis had spoken openly about family backing when she recruited staff. The first comments appeared before breakfast. One person wrote, "I'm so sorry someone put you in this position." Another wrote, "Some people only support your dreams when they can control them." Alexis replied with a broken heart symbol. I took screenshots. Then I called Brian. He answered in a whisper. "I'm at work. Did you see Alexis's post?" "Yes." She said support was promised. I know what she said. Is it true? "Mom, not now. It will still be false later. She's upset. She wrote it publicly. She didn't name you. She described me. You're assuming people know. They know enough." He lowered his voice further. "What do you want me to do? Tell her to correct it. That will start another fight." She started it. "I can't deal with this while I'm working. You dealt with it long enough to read the post." He exhaled. "I'll talk to her tonight. Will you tell her I never promised? I've already told her. Privately. Isn't that what you wanted?" I wanted her to stop saying the opposite. Someone spoke near him. Brian said, "I have to go." He ended the call. At 9, a tenant from Addison Avenue called. She ran a small insurance office on the first floor. "Diane, is everything all right with the building?" "Yes." "Why?" "I saw something online about it being used for a loan. The building is not securing any new loan, so it isn't being mortgaged." "No." "That's good. One of my employees thought maybe ownership was changing." "Ownership is not changing." "I didn't think so. I just wanted to ask you directly. I'm glad you did." After the call, I drove to Addison Avenue. The same tenant met me in the hallway. She looked embarrassed. "I hope I didn't overstep." "You didn't. I know family business gets complicated. The lease and the building are stable. That's all I needed." She returned to her office. I stood alone in the hallway. Alexis's post hadn't only embarrassed me, it had reached the people who trusted me to keep their workplace stable. That was a cost I couldn't ignore. I called Alexis. She answered immediately. "I was wondering when you'd see it. A tenant asked if the building was changing ownership. I didn't say anything about ownership. You wrote about family collateral. I wrote about my business. You wrote that support was promised. It was. No. You said you would review the proposal. That isn't a promise to sign. You encouraged us to move forward. When? You looked at payroll. You asked questions. You met with Nicole. That was the review I agreed to. You knew we had a deadline. I learned the deadline after you spent the deposit. You knew we were serious. Serious isn't secured." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "If you're worried about the post, help us close. I'll update everyone after. What would you write? That the issue was resolved. Would you correct the claim that I promised? If you sign, it won't matter. It matters now." Her voice became flat. "I'm not posting a public family argument. You already did. I shared what's happening to me. You shared a false reason. It's my page. It's my property. Nobody knows it's yours. My tenant knew. That isn't my fault. Remove the post." "No." "Then correct it." "No." I held the phone away from my ear for a second, not because she was loud, because she was calm. The tears were gone. The urgency remained, but now it had direction. She knew the post put pressure on me. That was why it stayed. "Are you using the post to make me sign?" I asked. "I'm telling the truth about what your delay is costing." "That wasn't my question. I have to get back to work. If you leave it up, I won't argue with you online." "Good. But I'm keeping a copy." "For what?" "For the same reason I keep bank records." She gave a small laugh. "You really think paperwork makes you right?" "No. It makes it harder to rewrite what happened." She ended the call. By noon, the post had more comments. Alexis added another sentence. She wrote that she had made hiring commitments based on repeated assurances from people closest to her. Repeated assurances. I searched my messages. I found every conversation about the practice. In each one, I had asked for records or agreed to review. I had never written yes. I had never said the building was available. I sent the screenshots and my original statement to Nicole. "I'm not asking the bank to respond," I wrote. "I want the file to remain accurate." Nicole replied that the file already reflected no consent, that practical protections still held. The public version did not. At 2, Brian came to my house. He didn't bring coffee. I opened the door, and he remained on the porch. Alexis says, "You threatened her with records." I said, "I kept a copy of her post." Why? Because it is false. She's talking about how she feels. She used the word promised. She felt promised support. That sentence doesn't make sense. He looked toward the street. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. He sat at the kitchen table. I remained near the counter. "Did you ask her to remove it?" I said, "Yes." "What did she say?" "That she won't be silenced." Correcting a false statement isn't silence. She thinks you're trying to control the story. I'm trying to keep her story out of my building. He rubbed his jaw. "She shouldn't have mentioned collateral. Thank you. But you also shouldn't contact the bank every time she says something. I didn't ask Nicole to act. You're building a case against us." "No, I'm keeping a record of what involves me. Same thing. It only feels the same if the facts are a problem." His face tightened. "This is what I came to talk about. You turn every conversation into evidence, because every conversation changes when Alexis repeats it." He stood and walked toward the window. "Do you know what people are telling her?" I read the comments. They're saying she should walk away from anyone who doesn't support her. Does that include you? She's angry with me too. Because you told her I never promised? Because I keep trying to make peace. Peace between truth and what? He turned around. "Do you want my marriage damaged?" "No. Because that's where this is going. Your marriage isn't secured by my building. You know it isn't that simple. It has become exactly that simple." He pulled out his phone and placed it on the table. "Alexis updated our emergency information." I looked at him. "What emergency information? My medical contacts? The clinic portal? Everything. Why? She's my wife. She should be the primary person. She already was. She thinks there are too many people involved in private decisions. Too many people means me." He didn't answer. I had been Brian's backup medical contact since before he married Alexis. After they married, she became first. I stayed second because I kept copies of old records and knew his medication history. Alexis had called me more than once when she couldn't remember a date. "Did you remove me?" I asked. I agreed she should handle it. That wasn't my question. "Yes." The kitchen clock clicked behind him. "Did you want to?" "I wanted this fighting to stop. So you remove my access. You don't need access unless something happens. That is what emergency access is for. Alexis will be there. She's often called me for records. She can ask if she needs them." I looked at the cabinet where I kept Brian's medical folder. "Is this because I won't sign?" "It's because you keep inserting yourself. You came here asking me to secure your wife's loan. That's financial. You just told me I insert myself into your life. I didn't mean it like that." "Then how did you mean it?" He pressed his fingers against his forehead. "I knew this would happen." "What would happen? You'd make it sound cruel. I'm repeating what you did. You don't need to be on every form to be my mother." "I agree." He looked surprised. I continued, "And you don't need my building to be my son." He picked up his phone. "I shouldn't have come. No, you should have come before removing me. I'm 47 years old, I know. Then stop treating me like I need permission." I almost laughed. "You came to my house because you need permission." He looked at me for several seconds. Then he put on his coat. "Alexis says she'll take down the post if the closing happens. There it is. I'm just telling you. No, you're delivering her price. That's not fair. Neither is using my reputation as a timer." He opened the front door. "I don't know what you want from me. I want you to tell the truth before it becomes useful." He left. I closed the door and stood with my hand on the lock. The removal hurt more than the online post. The post could be corrected someday. Emergency access was something Brian had chosen to take away while asking me to risk the safest thing Frank and I had built. I went to the kitchen cabinet and pulled out his medical folder. It held old procedure notes, medication lists, insurance letters, and copies of tests Alexis had asked me to organize. I didn't throw anything away. I placed the folder on the shelf beside my handbag. Then I opened the loan documents again. I could have ended the pressure with one signature. The post might disappear. Brian might come back for Sunday dinner. Alexis might call me supportive again. That was exactly why I couldn't sign for those reasons. I emailed Nicole. My decision remains pending. Please continue to require direct consent from me. Then I turned off my phone. I accepted that holding the building outside their assumptions might cost me access to my son. The unsigned mortgage remained on my table. At 6:30 the next morning, I turned my phone on. There were 14 messages. Most were from Alexis. 2 were from Brian. 1 was from Nicole. Nicole's message asked me to call before 9. I called her first. "The seller needs confirmation by noon," she said. "I know. Underwriting accepted the revised plan. What conditions remain? Final insurance evidence, which is expected this morning, and your signed collateral documents. Anything else?" "No. If the insurance arrives, my mortgage becomes the only unmet condition." "Yes. And without it? The loan cannot fund. No other collateral? None has been approved. No smaller loan? Not within the current commitment. No extension? The bank doesn't control the seller's deadline." I wrote each answer down. "What time does the seller's agreement end?" "Tomorrow at the close of business. She wants confirmation today so documents can be prepared. So noon isn't the final legal moment. No, it's her practical deadline for arranging the closing." That removed one uncertainty. Alexis had made noon sound like the instant everything disappeared. It wasn't. The pressure was real, but she had sharpened it. "Has a closing been scheduled?" I asked. "No." "Has a packet been prepared? The documents are ready in our system. Does my attendance mean consent?" "No." "Does reviewing the packet mean consent?" "No. Only my signature matters. Your properly completed signature and notarization. And if I refuse?" The bank closes the file without funding. Nicole wasn't saving me. She wasn't telling me what to choose. She was confirming the rule already written into the commitment. My building entered the loan only if I put it there. "Thank you," I said. "Do you want to meet this morning?" "Yes." I arrived at the bank at 8:30. Nicole had printed the final collateral pages. She showed me where I would sign if I decided to proceed. The mortgage covered the entire building. It wasn't limited to one tenant space or 1 year. "How long would it remain?" I asked. "Until the secured obligation was paid and released. So if Alexis says she'll remove it soon, that means refinancing or paying off the loan. Yes. She cannot simply request that it disappear? No. Could I force her to refinance? Not through these bank documents." I turned the page. What protection do I receive if the practice earns more than expected? None under the loan. No ownership in the practice? No. No payment for providing the collateral? Not from the bank. And I don't want ownership. That's separate from whether the risk is acceptable. I looked at the signature line. The easier choice would have been to refuse right there. Alexis had used my name publicly. Brian had removed my emergency access. They had made promises before asking properly. I could have called that consequence, but I didn't want to make a permanent property decision only because I was angry that morning. "I'm not signing now," I said. Nicole nodded. "Are you refusing?" "Not yet." "What do you need?" "Time until the actual deadline. I'll tell the borrowers no confirmation was provided this morning. Please say exactly that. I will." Before leaving, I asked for one more copy of the mortgage. Nicole handed it to me. In the bank parking lot, I opened Alexis's post again. More people had commented. One asked whether the person who withdrew support had understood the jobs at stake. Alexis replied. She understood. I wrote a response. I explained that I had never promised collateral. I wrote that the purchase depended on my debt-free building. I wrote that Alexis had made hiring commitments before my consent. Then I read it. Every sentence was true. Posting it would have been easy. It also would have exposed Brian's finances, Alexis's deposit, the practice's weak months, and a loan that had not yet closed. I deleted the response. I saved the screenshots and closed the page. If the false story reached the bank or my tenants, I would correct it. I wouldn't turn their financial trouble into entertainment for strangers. My phone rang as I started the car. It was Alexis. Did you sign? No. Did you refuse? No. Then what happened? I verified the final documents. We needed confirmation by noon. The agreement continues until tomorrow. The seller needs an answer today. She wants one today. Why are you doing this? I'm using the time available. You know what your silence means. It means I haven't decided. To everyone else, it means no. Then stop telling everyone what I mean. She ended the call. At 10:15, Brian sent a message. Can we have lunch? I replied that we could meet at 1. He didn't answer. At 10:42, Alexis called again. This time, she wasn't angry. Diane, I need you to listen. Her words came too fast. Brian got dizzy at work. His heart was racing. They called an ambulance. I stood from my kitchen chair. Where is he? St. Luke's. I'm driving there now. Is he awake? Yes. He called me from the ambulance. What did they say? They think it's an arrhythmia. I don't know anything else. I'm coming. No, wait. Why? I need you to go to our house first. I gripped the edge of the table. For what? His overnight clothes. The navy bag is in the bedroom closet. Do you think they're admitting him? They said they might. What else? His medication list. I can't find the current one. I have a copy. Bring it. You removed me from his medical access yesterday. Diane, please don't do this now. I'm not doing anything. I'm reminding you where the records are. She started crying. I can't think. Drive carefully. I'll get the bag. The front code is still Brian's birthday. You changed it? Last month? Nobody had told me. What clothing? Pajama pants, shirts, socks, his gray sweater. Insurance card? It might be in his desk. I have an older copy. Find the current one if you can. I took a pen from the drawer. What room? I don't know yet. Call me when you get there. Then she added, bring the blue folder from the dining room. What blue folder? The practice papers. I stopped writing. Why? Nicole is trying to arrange a mobile closing. Brian is in an ambulance. He told me not to lose the practice. When? He said it before they took his phone. Did he ask me to sign? He said we need to finish. That isn't the same answer. Please bring the folder. I looked at the unsigned mortgage on my table. Nicole holds the closing packet. The blue folder has our copies and the seller's information. Has a hospital closing been scheduled? Not yet. Nicole is checking. I'll speak with her directly. Fine, just bring everything. She ended the call. I packed Brian's medical folder first. His medication list was 6 months old, so I called his pharmacy and asked what information they could provide to him or Alexis. They couldn't release it to me without current authorization. I wrote down the pharmacy number, then I drove to Brian's house. The code opened the front door. On the dining table, the blue folder sat beside a legal pad. Alexis had written hospital on one line and closing on the next. I found Brian's overnight bag. I added the clothing she requested. His current insurance card was in the top drawer of his desk. On the way out, I saw 2 boxes near the kitchen wall. Shipping labels showed rehabilitation equipment inside. The practice address appeared as the final destination. Their house was only a temporary stop. I left the boxes where they were. Nicole called as I placed the overnight bag in my car. I heard about Brian, she said. Alexis contacted you? Yes. She asked whether we could complete the closing at the hospital. Can you? Only if every required person is willing and Brian is medically able to sign. What about me? You still decide separately. Has the final insurance condition arrived? Yes. So the mortgage is now the sole unmet loan condition. Yes, there it was. No missing paper, no hidden approval, no other person who could finish it. Only my decision. If I tell you no now, what happens? I notify the borrowers that the loan will not fund, and the hospital closing disappears. Yes. I looked through my windshield at Brian's house. I could have ended it before driving away. Alexis would have blamed me for choosing that moment. Brian might have believed her. More importantly, I would have wondered whether I used his illness as a weapon. I won't decide while I'm standing in their driveway, I said. Understood. What are you arranging? Alexis requested that I bring the packet to the hospital. I said I could meet in the public atrium if hospital staff allow it, not in Brian's room. No, I don't conduct commercial closings around medical care. Good. She wants to meet at 4. Has Brian agreed? She says he has. Have you spoken to him? Not yet. Then don't treat her answer as his. I won't. I close my eyes for a moment. I'm going to the hospital now. I'll wait until you know his condition. Thank you. At Street. Luke's Magic Valley Medical Center. I parked near the emergency entrance. Alexis met me in the lobby. Her hair was pulled back badly, as if she had tied it without a mirror. She took the overnight bag from me, but left the medical folder in my hands. Where is he? They moved him upstairs. His rhythm settled, but they're keeping him. Has the doctor explained what happened? Not fully. A cardiologist is coming. Can I see him? Yes. She looked at the blue folder under my arm. You brought it. You asked me to. Nicole can be here at 4. Did she speak with Brian? She will. Does he know I haven't agreed? This is not the time. It becomes the time if you bring a mortgage. Alexis rubbed her forehead. Can we focus on Brian for 1 hour? That's what I came to do. We took the elevator upstairs. Brian looked smaller in the hospital bed. An intravenous line ran into his left arm. Adhesive pads showed above the collar of his gown. His color was better than it had been in the photograph Alexis sent from the emergency room. Hi, Mom, he said. I placed the medical folder on the bedside table. How do you feel? Embarrassed. That's not a symptom. He smiled slightly. Tired. My chest feels fine now. Did they tell you what happened? Fast rhythm. They're running tests. Alexis unpacked his clothes into the narrow cabinet. I gave her the insurance card and pharmacy number. She looked at the old medication list. This isn't current. It's the latest copy you gave me. Brian closed his eyes. Can we not argue? We aren't, I said. Alexis placed the folder beside his water cup. A nurse came in and checked the monitor. The doctor should be here shortly, she said. We'll need room to talk. I'm his mother, I said. The nurse nodded. I'll let the family know when he's coming. After she left, Brian reached toward my hand. I held his fingers carefully around the pulse clip. Nicole may bring the closing papers, he said. I heard. I don't want this hospital thing to change your decision. It won't. Alexis turned from the cabinet. We should let him rest. I'll wait in the hall until the doctor comes. I picked up the blue folder. At 3:40, the nurse returned and said Brian's physician was on his way. Alexis moved toward the door before the nurse left. I'll stay for the consultation, I said. She stopped. The doctor needs to speak privately. I'm his mother. I know. Brian looked at me from the bed. His hand rested over the white blanket. Alexis lowered her voice. Immediate family only. Then she closed the hospital door. Brian watched her do it. He didn't call my name. He didn't ask her to wait. He looked down at the blanket while the door moved between us. The latch caught softly. I stood in the hallway holding the blue folder. A nurse pushed a computer cart past me. 2 people spoke near the ice machine. Farther down the hall, a monitor began beeping faster. I didn't knock. I didn't ask the nurse to intervene. Brian was awake. He could speak. He had chosen silence again. I set his overnight bag beside the wall. Alexis had taken out his clothes, but the bag still held his shoes and shaving things. Then I walked toward the elevators. My hand shook when I pressed the button. Not much, just enough for the blue folder to move against my coat. The elevator opened. I rode down to the main floor and found an empty chair near the atrium windows. Sunlight fell across the tile. People carried flowers, paper cups, and plastic bags from the gift shop. Nobody knew what had happened upstairs. That helped. I placed the blue folder on my lap and called Nicole. I'm at the hospital, I said. I'm leaving the bank now. Before you come, confirm something. All right. The insurance condition is complete. Yes, the mortgage on my building is the only unmet condition. Yes. No signature, no funding. That's correct. And no one can sign for me. No one. I looked toward the elevators. Bring the packet. Nicole paused. Have you decided? I'll state my decision at the meeting. Do you still want the meeting? Yes. I'll arrive before 4. After we hung up, I opened the blue folder. The seller's notice was inside. So were the equipment invoices and employment messages. Alexis had added a checklist: bank approval, insurance, seller documents, Brian's signatures, Diane's signature. She had drawn a box beside each line. Every box was checked except mine. My name appeared like an unfinished chore. I closed the folder. At 3:50, Alexis called. "Where are you?" "In the atrium." The doctor finished. "What did he say?" "They're keeping Brian overnight. His heart rhythm is stable now. They're adjusting medication and doing another test in the morning. Did they find damage?" "No." "Does he need anything?" "He needs rest." "Can I see him?" "We're bringing him down for the closing." I looked at the clock on the wall. He just had a heart consultation. He wants this finished. Did he say that to you? He said he doesn't want to lose the practice. That still isn't the same sentence. Diane. Nicole is already coming. I know. Alexis became quiet. You called her? Yes. What did you tell her? That I would state my decision here. A longer silence followed. Fine, she said. We'll be down. Nicole arrived carrying a black document case. She sat beside me. Are you all right? Yes. Where is Brian? Coming down. Did his physician approve the meeting? Alexis says he's stable. That isn't what I asked. I know. Nicole placed the document case between her feet. I won't proceed unless Brian tells me he understands what he's signing. That's appropriate. And I need to ask you separately. You will. She watched me for a moment. Mrs. Malone, if you feel pressured by the location, we stop. The location clarified something. She didn't ask what. A hospital employee came through the elevator doors, pushing Brian in a wheelchair. Alexis walked beside him with her handbag and a folded blanket. Brian wore the gray sweater I had packed. His hospital identification band showed beneath the sleeve. When he saw me, he gave a tired smile. There you are. Yes. Alexis pushed the wheelchair toward a low table near the center of the atrium. A coffee stand was open nearby. Several visitors sat in chairs along the windows. 2 hospital employees ate at a table across from us. Nicole stood. Brian, before we discuss the loan, are you feeling well enough to review documents? I'm tired, but I understand what's happening. Are you taking medication that makes you confused or drowsy? No. Alexis pulled out a chair. The nurse said he can be down here for 20 minutes. Nicole nodded. Then we'll keep this focused. Brian looked at the black case. Is everything ready? The bank documents are ready, Nicole said. Alexis placed the blue folder on the table. The seller is waiting for confirmation. Nicole opened her case. I need to be precise. The seller isn't part of this meeting. I'm handling the bank documents. Of course, Alexis said. Once Diane signs, you can confirm funding. Nicole looked at me. If Mrs. Malone signs. Alexis arranged the papers in front of Brian. She came. She brought everything. We don't need to keep treating her signature like a mystery. I remained standing. Brian glanced at me. Mom, sit down. I'm comfortable. Alexis took a pen from her handbag. We should do Brian's pages first. Nicole stopped her. I will control the packet. Alexis placed the pen on the table. Fine. Nicole explained the borrower documents. Brian listened. He asked one question about the payment date. His voice was weak, but his thinking seemed clear. He signed the pages that applied to him. Alexis signed hers. Nicole checked each signature before moving to the next page. Then she reached the third-party collateral pledge. She did not slide it toward me. Instead, she looked directly at me. Mrs. Malone, these are the documents we reviewed at the bank. I recognize them. The pledge and mortgage would allow 412 Addison Avenue to secure this loan. I understand. You are not a borrower. You are providing third-party collateral. Yes, if you sign, the building may be subject to the bank's rights if the loan defaults. I understand. Alexis shifted in her chair. We've explained all of this. Nicole ignored her. Mrs. Malone, do you want to proceed? Before I could answer, Alexis picked up the pen and held it toward me. Yes, she does. This is the final formality. People at the nearby table could hear her. A woman carrying flowers slowed slightly as she passed. I looked at the pen. Then I looked at Alexis. Put it down. Her hand remained extended. Diane, we have done everything you asked. Put the pen down. She dropped it onto the table. It rolled toward Brian's papers. Brian stopped it with his fingertips. Alexis leaned closer to me. What are you doing? A few minutes ago, your husband's doctor came to speak about his heart. This has nothing to do with that. You decided I could carry his records but not hear the doctor. Her face changed. That was a private medical conversation. I'm his mother. I'm his wife. I know. Brian looked toward the floor. Alexis lowered her voice. Do not turn this into a scene. You chose an open atrium. Because Nicole wouldn't close in the hospital room, Nicole made a professional decision, and you're making a personal one. Yes. She stared at me. I continued. When Brian was vulnerable, you told me I wasn't immediate family. I didn't say you weren't family. You closed the door. He needed privacy. Did he ask for privacy from me? Alexis looked at Brian. He said nothing. Brian? I asked. His fingers tightened around the pen. No, he said. The word was barely audible. Alexis turned toward him. You were overwhelmed. I didn't ask her to leave. You didn't object. No. I nodded. That part belongs to him. Alexis pushed her chair back. What does this have to do with the loan? My building is private too. Her mouth opened, then closed. I placed one hand on the blue folder. You cannot remove me from my son's life and bring me back as collateral. That is not what happened. It happened upstairs. You're punishing us because I asked for one private conversation. You didn't ask. You announced who counted. Alexis looked around the atrium. A hospital employee at the next table glanced away. Alexis lowered her voice further. If you refuse now, we lose the purchase. You knew that before you closed the door. That is cruel. No, cruel would be pretending this decision began today. She shook her head. You planned this. I came here carrying your folder. Then sign. No. Brian looked up. Mom. I faced him. You heard her upstairs. He swallowed. Yes. You watched the door close? Yes. Why? I didn't want another argument. So you let her put me outside. He looked at the hospital band on his wrist. I'm sorry. I touched the back of the empty chair. I'm not making this decision for an apology. Alexis spoke quickly. Then make it from the numbers. The bank approved the plan. The bank approved a loan protected by my property. We corrected the payroll. We added the bookkeeper. We provided every record. And the practice still needs my building. That was always the arrangement. No, that was always your assumption. Nicole remained seated with the unsigned mortgage in front of her. She hadn't interrupted. She also hadn't moved the paper closer to me. Alexis pointed toward it. You agreed to support us. I agreed to review. You knew we spent money. After you spent it. You knew people accepted jobs. After you offered them. You knew we were counting on you. I learned that too. Her eyes filled with tears. This time, I didn't wonder whether they were real. They probably were. Real tears didn't change the ownership record. Diane, please, she said. I looked at Brian. He had gone pale again, though the monitor wasn't with him. His shoulders rested heavily against the wheelchair. I could have delayed once more. That would have been easier for the next 10 minutes. It would have left Alexis hoping and Brian silent. It would also have let them keep calling my consent unfinished paperwork. I faced Nicole. I declined to sign the third-party collateral pledge and mortgage. Nicole held my gaze. You understand that without those documents, the bank cannot fund the loan. Yes. Is this your decision? Yes. Nicole lifted the unsigned mortgage and placed it back inside the packet. Alexis reached toward it. Wait. Nicole closed the folder. The property owner has declined. We can restructure, Alexis said. Not under this commitment. We can use the equipment. The approved loan requires the Addison Avenue property. What if we reduce the amount? That would require a new application and review. It would not meet the current deadline. Alexis turned to me. You just cost us the deposit. No, I declined my property. You promised. Brian's voice came from the wheelchair. No, she didn't. Alexis froze. He looked at Nicole, then at me. My mother never promised the building. The atrium stayed quiet around our table. Alexis stared at him. You told me she would help. I said I thought she would. You signed the purchase agreement with me. I know. You let me make offers. I know. Her voice rose. And now you're taking her side? Brian rubbed his chest lightly. I'm telling the truth. Nicole placed the remaining borrower papers inside her case. Because the required mortgage has been declined, I will notify the bank that the loan cannot fund. Alexis gripped the edge of the table. What about the pages we signed? They do not create a funded loan without completion of all conditions. So they mean nothing? They cannot complete this transaction. Nicole opened her laptop and entered a note. Then she turned the screen enough for us to see. Third-party property owner declined collateral documents. Loan will not fund. She sent the notice. Alexis's phone buzzed almost immediately. She looked at the screen but didn't open the message. Nicole closed the mobile packet. The unsigned mortgage disappeared inside it. Alexis opened the message on her phone. Her face lost what little color it had. The seller says she's moving on. Nicole stood and lifted her case. The bank notice confirms that funding is unavailable. Alexis looked up. Can you call her? I can confirm the bank's position. I cannot change it. Ask for an extension. That is between you and the seller. What am I supposed to tell her? The loan will not fund. Alexis pressed the phone against her chest. She'll keep the deposit. Nicole didn't answer. The purchase agreement wasn't hers to enforce. Alexis turned to me. You can still change your mind. The bank has closed the packet. Nicole can reopen it. Nicole said, only with Mrs. Malone's voluntary consent and sufficient time for review. Then we have time. I picked up my handbag. No. Alexis stared at me. You said you hadn't decided until today. I decided today because of a hospital door. Because the door showed me what all the other papers meant. She shook her head. You're destroying my business over one sentence. You don't own the practice. I was supposed to. That depended on something you never had. Brian shifted in the wheelchair. Stop, Alexis. She faced him. You don't get to tell me to stop. You sat there and let her do this. Brian looked tired, but he didn't look away. She didn't do the spending. We did it together. Yes. You encouraged me. Yes. And now you're acting innocent. I'm not innocent. That silenced her for a moment. Nicole placed her business card on the table. I'll send formal confirmation to both borrowers. The collateral request is closed. She looked at me. No mortgage will be recorded against the Addison Avenue property. Thank you. She nodded and left the atrium. Alexis watched her walk away. Then she said, You embarrassed me in front of the bank. You presented my signature as a formality. You could have spoken to me privately. I did, many times. Her phone rang. The seller. Alexis walked toward the windows and answered. I could hear only her side. There was a last-minute issue. She listened. No, the bank did not withdraw approval. Another pause. The collateral provider declined. She looked at me when she said it. Then she turned away. I understand the deadline. She listened again. What about the deposit? Her shoulders lowered. All of it? The call lasted less than 2 minutes. When she returned, her eyes were wet. She's keeping the deposit and talking to the other buyer. Brian closed his eyes. Alexis looked at me. Are you happy now? No. You got what you wanted. I wanted you to ask before spending. That doesn't help us now. No, it would have helped before. A hospital employee approached with the wheelchair. Mr. Malone needs to return upstairs. I can take him, Alexis said. Brian opened his eyes. Mom can come. Alexis put both hands on the wheelchair handles. She can visit later. Brian's voice stayed quiet. "She can come now." Alexis looked at him. "The doctor said you need rest. He also said family can visit." Her jaw tightened. Brian continued. "My mother is family. It was only a sentence. He should have said it upstairs. He should have said it years earlier in smaller rooms. Still, he said it now, when it cost him something." The hospital employee waited without commenting. Alexis stepped away from the chair. I walked beside Brian as the employee pushed him toward the elevators. Upstairs, a nurse met us near his room. Brian spoke before Alexis could. "My mother can receive medical information," Iwaner added back. The nurse looked at him. "We can update your authorization when you're settled." "Please do." Alexis entered the room behind us. "This isn't the time to change forms." Brian looked at her. "You changed them yesterday. That was different." "No, it was part of the same fight. You agreed. I agreed because I wanted the arguing to stop." The nurse adjusted the wheelchair near the bed. "I'll give you a few minutes." After she left, Brian stood carefully and sat on the bed. I placed his overnight bag in the cabinet. Alexis remained near the door. "Your mother just cost us our savings," she said. Brian leaned back against the raised mattress. "We spent the savings, based on her support." "No, you told me she would help. I told you I thought she would. You keep repeating that like it clears you. It doesn't." He looked at me. "I should have told you both to wait." "Yes," I said. Alexis folded her arms. "So now what?" "We lose the deposit, the equipment fees, and every person I recruited?" Brian looked at her. "We call them. You call them. I will." "And what do we say?" "The financing failed. Because your mother refused. Because we committed before she agreed." Alexis laughed once. "You're choosing her. I'm choosing the sentence I should have used before." She walked into the hallway. The door remained open behind her. Brian looked toward it. "I don't expect you to forgive me." "Good." He nodded. "I knew you hadn't promised." "I know. I kept thinking if I stayed out of it, you and Alexis would settle it. You signed the purchase agreement." "I know. You weren't out of it. I know that now." He rubbed the adhesive mark near his collarbone. The nurse returned with an authorization form. Brian read it. He added my name as a person permitted to receive information and as a secondary emergency contact. Alexis watched from the hallway. She didn't object again. The doctor came later that afternoon. Brian asked me to stay. The doctor explained that the rhythm problem had settled. Brian would remain overnight for monitoring. His existing insurance covered the admission under the usual terms. He needed medication, follow-up care, and less stress for the next few days. Nobody said the failed purchase caused the arrhythmia. Nobody needed that extra accusation. When the doctor left, Alexis sat beside the window. Her phone kept ringing. The first prospective employee wanted to know whether the opening was delayed. Alexis answered in the hallway. "The purchase is not moving forward," she said. She listened. "I know what I told you." Another pause. "I'm sorry." She made 5 more calls that evening. Each one became shorter. Brian made 2 calls himself. He didn't blame me. He said the financing condition wasn't completed and that they had announced too early. At 7, he opened Alexis's online post. He read the comments without speaking. Then he typed a correction from his own account. "My mother did not promise collateral. We moved forward before she made a decision. The purchase failed because a required condition was not completed." He showed it to me before posting. "You don't need my permission to tell the truth," I said. He posted it. Alexis saw the correction from the chair near the window. "You made me look like a liar." Brian placed his phone on the blanket. "You said she withdrew promised support." "She did." "No, she didn't." Alexis stood. "You heard her say she'd review it. That wasn't a promise. You told me she would come around." "I was wrong." "Then you should take responsibility." "I just did. By humiliating me publicly? By correcting what we said publicly." For once, he didn't lower his voice to make the disagreement disappear. Alexis picked up her handbag and left the room. She closed the door behind her, though not as hard as before. Brian looked at me. "You should go home. Are you asking for privacy? I'm asking you to rest." I picked up my coat. "Call if the doctor needs anything." "I will. Not if Alexis needs a receipt entered." He gave a tired smile. "No." In the hallway, Alexis stood near the elevators. Her eyes were red. "The post is coming down," she said. "Good. Not because you were right. I didn't ask why. You could have declined before we paid the deposit. I didn't have the records before then. You could have trusted me. You called my consent a formality." She pressed the elevator button. "I will never forget what you did today." I won't forget either. The elevator came. We rode down without speaking. Near the pharmacy, Alexis realized Brian's new prescription needed to be collected before closing time. Her wallet was upstairs in the room. "I'll pay," I said. "You can repay me." She looked surprised. "You're still willing to help with that? It's medicine. It isn't your business purchase." I paid the prescription charge and bought a bottle of water for Brian. I kept the receipt. Alexis saw me fold it into my handbag. I said, "I'll repay you. I heard you." Outside, she walked toward her car. I went to mine. The next morning, Brian was discharged. I didn't offer to manage his schedule. I didn't call the pharmacy or organize his follow-up papers. Alexis did those things. When she couldn't find a test result, she asked Brian to request it through his portal. She didn't call me. The seller confirmed the purchase agreement had ended. The earnest deposit was lost. Equipment cancellation and redirection charges remained their responsibility. Nicole sent me a final letter. The loan had not funded. The collateral file was closed. 412 Addison Avenue remained free of the proposed mortgage. I placed the letter in my safe deposit box. The business post disappeared that afternoon. Brian's correction remained. 3 days later, he came to my house. He carried no folder. He brought no receipts. He didn't ask for money. I opened the door but didn't move aside immediately. "What do you need?" "Nothing." "Why are you here?" "To see you." I looked at his empty hands. Then I let him in. Brian sat at the kitchen table. I made coffee. I didn't take out Frank's calculator or ask whether Alexis needed help with the equipment returns. Brian held the mug between both hands. "How are you feeling?" I asked. "Better." "Tired?" "Are you taking the new medication?" "Yes." "Any more racing?" "No." I nodded. He looked around the kitchen. I was trying to remember the last time I came here without needing something. "Did you remember?" "No, neither did I." He took a drink. "Alexis thinks I should give you space." "What do you think?" I think space was what I used whenever I didn't want to speak. That was more honest than I expected. He looked at me. "I'm sorry I let her close the door. I didn't answer. I'm sorry I removed you from the medical forms," he continued. "I did it because she was angry and I wanted the argument to move away from me. It moved on to me. I know. You also let her believe I had promised the building." "I did." "Why?" "Because correcting her would have meant stopping the purchase." "Yes. I wanted you to be the person who stopped it." There it was. He had waited for me to carry the refusal because he didn't want to carry disagreement with his wife. I placed my mug on the table. An apology doesn't change that. I know. "What are you going to do?" "I already corrected the emergency forms. I corrected the post. What about Alexis?" "I told her I won't call your decision a betrayal." "And?" "She said I was choosing you over her." "What did you say?" "I said I was choosing not to lie." I watched him. He didn't smile. He didn't ask whether that earned him anything. "Are you going to keep doing that?" I asked. "Yes. We'll see." He nodded. We drank our coffee. When he left, he carried his own mug to the sink. He rinsed it and put it in the drying rack. It was a small thing. Small things had helped create the old pattern. They would have to help change it too. Brian called 3 days later. "Can I come by Saturday? What do you need?" "Nothing." "Then why?" "I thought we could have lunch." "Who is cooking?" "I am." That made me laugh. "What are you making?" "Sandwiches. That isn't cooking. It's within my skill level." He came Saturday with bread, turkey, cheese, and tomatoes. He didn't bring bank papers. He didn't mention the lost deposit. We ate at the kitchen table. Afterward, he noticed the porch light flickering. Want me to replace that? I can do it. I know. May I? I handed him a new bulb. He changed it, put the ladder away, and left without taking my spare key. The following Tuesday, he visited me at Addison Avenue. He called first. I'm nearby. May I stop in? For what? To see the building. You've seen it. Not really. I let him come. I showed him the repaired ceiling tile and the drain that had caused the stain. We walked through the hallway while the tenants worked behind closed doors. This is what you and Dad paid off, he said. Yes. I treated it like an empty number on an application. So did Alexis. He looked at the front windows. I should have understood. You should have asked. He nodded. May I help clear the leaves next time? If you want to help with the leaves. Not for anything else. All right. He came the following month after a storm. He brought gloves and a trash bag. He cleared the drain while I checked the outside lights. He didn't ask what the building was worth. He didn't ask whether I would ever use it for them. Alexis didn't contact me for nearly 3 weeks. During that time, the equipment orders were canceled or redirected. The fees came from their remaining savings. The seller completed discussions with another buyer. I didn't follow the sale. The 6 people Alexis had contacted found other plans. Some stayed in their current jobs. Others continued looking. Alexis accepted a salaried position at an established rehabilitation practice. She would treat patients and help with scheduling, but she wouldn't own the business, Brian told me once. I didn't call her to discuss it. One Thursday afternoon, Alexis sent a message. May I come to your house tomorrow? I stared at the word may. I replied, what for? To repay the hospital expenses and speak to you. I told her 4 o'clock. She arrived at 4 exactly. She carried a plain envelope, no binder, no laptop. I led her into the living room. She remained standing until I pointed toward a chair. The envelope contains the prescription and water expense, she said. I added the hospital parking you paid. You didn't ask me to pay your parking. I used your receipt when I left in your car that evening. I should repay it. I counted the money. It matched. Thank you. She folded her hands in her lap. I also posted a correction. I saw it. Her message had been short. She wrote that family collateral had not been promised. She said she had described the situation incorrectly because she was angry about the failed purchase. Some people commented. She didn't argue with them. She left the correction online. Alexis looked toward the front window. I blamed you because it was easier than telling people I moved too soon. I waited. I paid the deposit after the bank told me your signature was required, she said. I made offers because I thought Brian could persuade you. That's true. I treated your review like a delay instead of a decision. Yes. She swallowed. At the hospital, I told you that you weren't immediate family. Then I expected your property to act like family property. I didn't help her finish. She looked at me. I'm sorry for shutting you out of Brian's consultation. I'm also sorry I treated your building and your time as things I could count before you consented. The apology named what happened. That mattered. It didn't restore anything by itself. I hear you, I said. She nodded. I don't expect you to trust me. Good. I'm going to earn what I can. That takes time. I know. She stood. May I call you next week? For what? Coffee. No paperwork. You may call. She left after 20 minutes. The first coffee lasted half an hour. The second lasted longer. I met her in a public cafe both times. I paid for my own drink. She didn't ask me to review her new employment agreement. She didn't complain about the seller or the lost deposit. When she spoke about the failed purchase, she used the word we. We moved too fast. We assumed too much. She didn't say Diane stopped us. That was another small change. 2 months later, Brian invited me to dinner. He called on a Monday. Would you come Sunday? Who will be there? Alexis and me. Is this a business dinner? No. Do you need me to bring anything? No. Do you need a ride, a receipt, or a signature? No. What are you cooking? There was a pause. Alexis is cooking. That improves your chances. At dinner, my place was already set. Nobody asked me to return warming trays afterward. I didn't give them a key to my house again. Brian didn't ask. Alexis began calling before visiting. If I said I was busy, she accepted it without asking what I was doing. I allowed limited contact because their conduct remained different. Limited meant coffee, dinner, and ordinary phone calls. It didn't mean access to my accounts or the building. The warranty deed stayed in the safe deposit box. No new mortgage touched Addison Avenue. On Tuesdays, I continued visiting the tenants. Brian sometimes helped with outdoor work, but he asked each time. He never became part owner. He never asked to become part owner. When a repair invoice arrived, I paid it from the building account. When rent arrived, I recorded it myself. I stopped using usefulness as proof that I belonged. Some quiet returned to my house. It felt different now. I could sit at my table without waiting for a request to make the day important. Brian's heart rhythm remained stable. He took his medication and attended his appointments. For the first few visits, Alexis went with him. Then she started her new job and couldn't attend one follow-up at St. Luke's. Brian called me. "I have an appointment Friday." "What time?" 10:30. "Do you need a ride?" "I can drive." "Do you need records?" "I have them." I waited. He continued. "I'd like you to come if you want to." "Why?" "Because I want you there." That answer was enough. At the hospital, Brian checked himself in. He carried his insurance card and medication list in a small black folder. I carried my handbag. When the nurse called his name, Brian stood. He didn't walk ahead and assume I would follow. He turned to me. "Would you come in?" "Yes." Inside the examination room, the nurse reviewed his medication and blood pressure. Then she looked at Brian. "Who may stay for the physician consultation?" "My mother," he said, "if she wants to." The nurse looked at me. "Do you want to stay?" "Yes." She nodded and left the room to get the doctor. Brian placed his black folder on his lap. The door remained open. After the consultation, he carried his records and his jacket. The hospital door stood open as I walked beside Brian, carrying only my own handbag.